Tonight, the reigning champion fights for second crown.
Claims the victory here. Wins the Grand Prix. Equus wins in Brazil. A fantastic race from the Williams and a fantastic landing. Welcome along, everybody. We are here in Qatar, then, the penultimate round of the season for all the nations, but for the 100% League first, of course. And we are looking forward to crowning potentially, or hopefully for Equaz's sake, a champion here tonight then. And we'll see what the Williams driver can do then for Equaz. He is currently 51 points ahead of his rival of Gordo. And Gordo needs to try and win then and get faster slap then to keep himself in the hunt then. And that's without Equaz scoring any points here. But there we go then. Oh, right then, good stuff indeed then. Yes, we were going to get ourselves underway here in qualifying, and fingers crossed we can hear the. Can we hear the audio from the game then? Yes, we can. Just about. Good stuff indeed. Right then, we can crack on. So welcome along then to the stream. Then welcome along to Qatar then for the first time here in ALR this season, I should say. Then season 11 of ALR. Vessia then sets the precedent then at 22.6 for Vessia in the Aston Martin. Then he's looking pretty good then, as we've got another Aston Martin there coming out of the pit lane, I think. Then right behind the other Aston Martin of Vessia as well. Then good stuff indeed. And now I think Tori's then has finished off his lap. Then he is oh dear, there's a bit of traffic then forming then at turns 2, 3 and 4, but there we go. Then we're all sorted then. Even all from Rocket League then, 100% drivers as well then. Good luck from Rocket League then. So a win with fastest lap and Equaz DNF, says Gordo then. Well, technically that would be the situation then, but yes, of course, no foul play involved, please. So there we go then. Good luck then to the Young Lights. Thanks from Rocket League. Thanks to Rocket League as well. Then good luck from Gordo as well. Then good evening from Ewok then, who's joined us then, or rejoined us, I should say. Then he's a long-time ALR driver. Then long-time history in ALR, I should say. Then after taking his sabbatical, then I think he was actually over in America for quite a few months and enjoying the sights and scenes then of the American Riviera. That's not really a Riviera, is it? It's an American country or continent almost, pretty much. Nonetheless, I'm rambling on. We're not over in America today. Then we've done America then for this season, with Vegas being the last round then, and or the last round last week, that is. And there's a Racing Bull then having a few issues trying to get himself out of the way then of the Vintage. Then Vintage is back in the car then, thankfully then he's racing along tonight then, and looking forward to seeing what he can do then in the Red Bull tonight as well. Then justifies the 23.5, puts himself P6 then ahead of R2 Beat Legend then, a 24.1 in the Haas then into P8 then for the Haas reserve. Then he's reserving a place of Mumford, I believe. So there we go then. Good luck indeed. Good stuff indeed, I should say. Goodness me, as we get ourselves going through into the next part of the circuit then for Vintage and the final couple of corners here. And that Racing Bull is getting very racy indeed then, right behind this Red Bull as well then. So maybe Vintage needs to get a bit of a hurry up then from that Racing Bull then, as we go into the pit then for, I think, Kamara Racer then. Vintage then up to the line. What's it going to be then for the Red Bull? Then it's a 27.9 then. I'm not quite sure that's his best pace then, is Vintage, but hopefully he can get himself going. Maybe as just done 2 out laps here. Let's turn on the hot lap now for this lap as well. Then here comes Gordo, then the championship protagonist, I should say. Then he is 51 points behind the current pole sitter and the current championship leader then of Equaz in the Williams, and a 22-1, sorry, I should say then for Equaz. puts himself ahead of Kiki then by over a tenth of a second. Then as it stands, then Equaz, position-wise, of course, as it stands in qualifying, there's still quite a way to go. But as it stands, Equaz winning the championship here tonight. Then if he gains over 2 points to Gordo, that is. So, yes, so we're having to wait and see then how the fight is going to unfold. Then as Ginger Age starts off his first flying lap here, then Ginger Age was just commenting beforehand about the penalty situations around this circuit, and he needs to try and minimise those, as do the rest of the drivers, to be fair, because it's a very penalty-friendly circuit, this one, isn't it? So we'll have to wait and see then how they're going to fare then here in Qatar, and take us away then down the start-finish straight, and then Gordo up into P3, then a 22.4, puts himself onto the podium position then, but that wouldn't be enough to keep his title fight alive then, unfortunately, then, as it stands with Equaz then currently looking pretty formidable then, with a 3/10 of a second gap then, almost 2.5 of a second gap then to his championship rival of Gordo. As it stands, Young Lights then has got himself up into the front row of the grid then, 22.2 for him as well, then up into P2, and Young Lights then looking very good indeed. Then where is that Red Bull? Then I think it's Vintage, and he's improved to a 25.8, sorry, I should say. Justified, no, it's not Justified, it's R2Beat jumped up to P9 then with a 23.2 in the Alpine. Of course, R2Beat then up until last round then was fighting then for the title as well. Then he was in the championship hunt, then was R2Beat then looking to cement P3 then in the drivers' standings here tonight as well, potentially. But we'll have to wait and see then. But he is doing a good job then into P9 now for the time being. Vintage coming through Sector 1, then Legends has invalidated his time, then coming through into Sector 2. And where is P's? P's starting off a lap now as well, heading down that main straight. Here comes Ginger Age, and Ginger Age up into P13 with a 23.666, the sign of the devil then from Ginger Age. Goodness me. That's dangerous. So there we go then. Legend then back out on a lap. Then RELPs is back through into Sector 1, then going through Turn 4 now, reserving in place of Lucas Percy. Then, of course, Lucas Percy then had a fantastic last couple of races. P2, I think it was, in Brazil with Equaz, then 92 thousandths of a second ahead of him, wasn't it? I think it was in the end, but it was very close between Equaz then and Lucas Percy then for the whole 71 laps of Brazil. And then I think in the Vegas Grand Prix last week, then he won the Grand Prix then in the US of A, and unfortunately not racing tonight then, which is a big shame. Did we just see? I thought we just saw Serious Mushroom leaving the pit lane then. Maybe Hungry Styles even. No, not quite. No, I think they're both stuck in the pits. Never mind. So that's then sorted. So there we go. We'll ride up all with P's heading through into Sector 3 now, the final couple of corners then for the of the lap. Then there's quite a long flowing sector this part of the lap as we head into the penultimate corner now, and let's see if we can keep us within track limits. They're very nicely done indeed from P's then up to the line very shortly, then round the final corner. Of course, they moved the pit entry now as well. That used to be at the exit of the penultimate corner, it's now at the exit of the final corner. Then P's up to the line. What's it going to be? It's a P7 then for P's, then 22.783, puts himself into the points paying positions then, well, of the grid, that is, not just yet. Then we haven't started the race just yet, unfortunately, so we'll have to come back to that one. Then Ewok is going very slowly then indeed, and not quite sure what is going on then between for the Ferrari, that is. Is he coming back to the pit lane potentially? We're not sure, but he was just trying to get himself out of the way of his teammate. Then Gino then is finishing off a in lap, I think. Then, oh god, that Alpine was very dangerously diving into the pit lane. Then that was Tori reserving in place of Farf then, who couldn't make it tonight. Then so here we go. Then Kamara Racer then rounding the final corner. Then let's see what Kamara Racer can do then in the Racing Bull. Can he go up the order? Then can he switch himself up to higher echelons? And not quite. Well, he has improved by one position, but he's put himself on 22.9 then into P8 for Kamara Racer. Good stuff indeed. A lot of pit stop action then. There's yellow flags coming out fluttering around then, I think, for not for Vintage, it's for, I think it might be for Kamara Racer then, who's just finished his lap. Then Young Lights is coming out of the pit lane to start off another escapade then around this circuit, and seeing what he can do then here tonight. Then of course Young Lights has done a very good job then in the last few races, a few podiums under his belt for the Green Machine, and looking to try and maybe even try and elevate that into a win potentially here in the next round or two. Of course, only 2 rounds remaining of the season, and that's the same for all divisions as it stands at the moment, then including the 100% tonight, then Qatar then tonight, then and Abu Dhabi in a week's time then for the 100% league. And of course Qatar is coming up for gold on Sunday, silver on Monday, and bronze on Tuesday. Then that is their penultimate round of the season, and then we have Abu Dhabi as well then in a almost 1.5 weeks time really for gold, silver and bronze as well then. So we'll come back to that at the end of the stream, but there we go then. 7 minutes left of qualifying now, and we'll have to wait and see then if anybody's going to be able to improve on their current times. And flying through then is Vessia. Then he's 17 thousandths of a second up on his previous time in Sector 2, or Sector 1, sorry, I should say. Might have a clean race without Farf, says Ginger Age then, potentially. Hopefully you'll be safe then, but now you're the threat then, Ginger Age. Then he is, yes, so there we go. Heading through into Sector 3, sorry, I should say, then for Vessia then, looking to improve then on P5, currently looking very strong then for Aston Martin as it stands, P4 and P5 respectively. Then Gordon needs to get himself further up the order, then he wants to challenge his title rival Equaz at the early stages of this Grand Prix as well. Then here comes Vessia then up to... stays P4, P5 I should say. That he's improved by almost a tenth and a half though, and that could maybe cement his position then in P5 as well. Then Chapper's on the track as well. Then where is Coop? It's not Coop, it's Equaz. Then he's starting off a lap then very shortly. Then Kamara Racer is in the pit lane. So where is Kiki? This is Kiki. Then coming around the final corner. Then let's see what Kiki can do. Then can he improve on P3? Then here he comes up to the line, and it's going to be good indeed. It's 22-0. Then it puts himself pole position. Then my goodness me, fantastic. So indeed, and that is over a tenth then to Equaz, who needs to find some time then in his lap then to improve then and get that pole position back then if he can. But Kiki then looking very good indeed then as it stands. Pole position then for the Racing Bull then is not too shabby indeed. Then Chappers then up into P5, then splitting the two Aston Martins and looking very strong there indeed as well. Then in the Haas then reserving a place of New Zealand Cam, I believe, as well. To right, McLaren fighting for P4 in the constructors, then says Ginger Age. Then currently McLaren then are not doing too well. Then there's one McLaren who's not set a time, and Ginger Age is in P15 for the time being as well. Then there's a siren of support then for McLaren then as we go past, as it goes past my window. But there we go. Then Ginger Age needs to get his what's it called? Needs to get his toe out or something like that. And maybe, oh dear, I don't want to get too drastic. It's not 9 p.m. just yet. But yes, there we are. So fun. Right then, Vessia back in the pit lane. Chapper's coming through as well. Then Gordo is all that back end looking a bit flighty then for Gordo. Then he's gone purple in Sector 1. Then that could be promising stuff indeed for Gordo. Then here comes Equaz. He's back in the pit lane. He's abandoned his previous time. He's invalidated his previous time, unfortunately, for Equaz. And there's 4.5 minutes left of the session. There's still time for Equaz to get himself back out and onto another lap though. Kiki then follows him into the pit lane. Currently on pole position then is Kiki. Then there is the teammate of Coop then being wheeled away. Then Equaz then is being blocked by his teammate then coming into the pits as it stands. Chappers then coming back to the box as well. Then Ginner, I think, is following him through. Then here comes Gordo. Then Gordo looking to improve on P4 as it stands. And he's on the second row of the grid. Then can he get himself on the front row of the grid? Then can he get himself on pole position? Then Ginner's up to P4 with a 22.403. Here comes Gordo. And Gordo is improving massively. Then Gordo's on pole position with a 21.916. And this is what he needs here tonight. Then that is fantastic from Gordo. Then he's looking very impressive indeed. Then if he can hold on to that pole position, then that will be just what he needs then in this race then to try and cement himself try and continue the charge then for the title in this season. That is with only one round remaining after this one tonight, of course. 52 points on the line as it stands. Young Lights improves to P3. Then Young Lights then displacing Equaz down to P4. Then it's roles reversed then after the first few laps of qualifying. Then where Equaz was on pole position then and Gordo was in P4. It's now flipped on its head then as Gordo takes pole position as it stands away from the championship leader of Equaz. And my goodness me, qualifying then could get pretty intense in this session as well then, and especially if it's going to go into the race. Then 57 laps I believe around this circuit then, and like I said, it's a penalty inducing circuit as well then, so there could be a few things that can't start getting added on penalty wise, that is, at the end of the race as well. Then we'll have to wait and see. Then Kamara Racer back through Sector 2. Then he's on the power, then on the ERS, then hot lap flying through then in the Racing Bull. Then can he improve on P10 currently in the middle of the field? Tori's invalidated this time, unfortunately for Tori. Then Justify is on a lap as well. Then so is Ewok Jr. as well. Then good to have him back on the grid. Then Ginger Rage starting off a lap here as well. My goodness me, I think Kamara Racer potentially is the furthest around the circuit. I'm not quite sure. There's all sorts of action. Then Jitter coming back into the pit lane. Then there's an Alpine then of R2B. No, it's not R2B. It might be somebody else. Tori coming back into the pits as well. Then have they got time to get themselves back out? There is the question. I'm not quite sure. Then where is R2B? R2B into the pits as well. Then goodness me, oh dear, that's a bit of a problem then for R2B. Then Kamara Racer up into P9. Then improves to 22.718. Puts himself into the top 10 then as it stands here. But unfortunately, that might be in jeopardy then with other drivers potentially starting off their laps very soon. Justify then has run out of deploy with him, but up to the line. Justify P13, then he has not improved unfortunately on that time. I don't think he's got time either to get himself back in the pit lane and go again. Then here comes Ewok round the final corner, invalidating at the final turn then for Ewok. Then unfortunately for the Ferrari driver as well. Then P14 at best then as well. Not time to get himself back out onto the track for another lap then. Ginger Age flying through purple in Sector 2. My goodness me, then that could be dangerous stuff indeed. If Ginger Rage is going to be purple in Sector 2, then that could be purple on the rest of the lap as well. Then he could get himself on pole position here if that's the case. Well, I'm not sure, but let's see. As oh dear, that is definitely very wide. Then round the final corner, unfortunately for Ginger Rage, and that is him done and dusted in qualifying. I think not enough ERS to play with them to go again. And then on his next attempt, then Vintage is running out of fuel. Then up to the line. Then can Vintage complete the lap? Then before that fuel tank then expires around the final corner, almost invalidating as well. Then for Vintage, and Younglights is retired. Then in the pit lane, Vintage then up into or stays P17, but he's improved by 1.5 seconds almost. Then fantastic. Very good improvement indeed. Then Legend back out on track. Then Ginger Rage trying to get himself out of the way then of cars coming through on their outlaps here, as is justified as well. Then Ewok has retired. Where is he retired? Then I think he's got himself back in the pit lane. Then has Ewok. Then good stuff indeed. Then goodness me, there's all sorts of action here. I think that's P's trying to go through. Young Lights has retired in the pit lane. He's P3 at best then, so there could be a fight between Equaz, Kiki, Gordo then for pole position potentially here as well. We'll have to wait and see then how they're going to fare on their final laps here in qualifying then for the penultimate round of the season here as well then. Ran out of time, says Young Lights then. Don't forget, Gordo has to win and fastest lap, says Serious Mushroom. Yes, that's correct. So Gordo is currently 51 points behind Equaz then. If Equaz doesn't score, Gordo needs to win and get fastest lap to be able to take the title fight on to the final round of the season in Abu Dhabi. And we'll have to wait and see then how that's going to go. If it goes that way, then it's going to be a very difficult race tonight then for Equaz. But my goodness me. But I'm not sure he'll be too happy about that. But yeah, of course. So we'll have to wait and see then. But we've seen some very consistent performances then from Equaz then in this season and in previous seasons as well then, and in gold of course as well. So we'll have to wait and see then what he can do then here tonight in Qatar. Then looking to improve on P4 currently then going into Sector 2. We'll come back to that then because we've got an Alpine of Tori I think crossing the line. Then he stays P12 then for Tori. We've got a Red Bull behind us as well. That's Vintage and coming back into the pit lane, and then a Haas is next across the line. It's Legend then. Legend in the reserve seat then for the Haas. Then DRS open then up to the line. It's P8 for Legend, then improves by 1.6 seconds then to take himself up into the top 10. Fantastic stuff indeed then. Where have we got next? We've got R2B. Unfortunately has invalidated his time. He is done and dusted in qualifying here. Where is the next cars in? It's Gordo. Gordo has no, what's happened to Gordo? I don't know not sure what's going on here with my timing screens, but Vessia's up into P2, then that's for sure. Then Vessia, then a front row lockout for Aston Martin as it stands. And can Equaz have a say about that as well? Then here comes Equaz up to the line. Then Equaz to finish off the lap. Then what's it going to be? A 22.0 stays P4. But has improved then by 10th of a second. Then Chappers then up into P6, displacing Jinner down, but Jinner is flying through into the final couple of quarters of Sector 3. Then Pease is back in the pit lane, abandoning his time. Then he is done and dusted in qualifying here. Then where is Kamara Racer? No, it's not Kamara Racer, it's Kiki. Then he splits the two Red Bull Aston Martin, sorry. Goodness me, there's too many of them. But he is into P2, then front row of the grid then for Kiki. And that is qualifying, done and dusted here. And my goodness me, then that was very quick indeed, to be fair. But that is the order. Then we're going to run through the classification very shortly. And there it is then, pole position for Gordo. Then this is where it needs to be. Then he needs to be fighting for the top spot, then the win and the fastest lap as well here in Qatar, then to have any chance then to take the fight on. Then of course, even if Gordo wins with fastest lap, then and Equaz scores, I should say, then Equaz then will still win the title tonight. It's 51 points the gap then between Equaz and Gordo as it stands before this race kicks off. Then Kiki P2, Vessia P3, Equaz P4, Lights in P5, Chappers P6, Jinner in P7. A bit of a sandwich for Jinner then in the Haas sandwich of Legend in P8. Then RGB P9 and Kamara Racer rounds off the top 10. Got a little too excited at the final quarter, says Ginger Rage. Then, oh dear, so that might have been why he invalidated his time. Then, hopefully, he has not done anything in his seat at the same time. Then, but there we are. Oofed, surprised with that time, says Gordo as well. Then, so that is Gordo. Then he is done and dusted now for qualifying. We'll run through the order then very shortly. Then, but first we'll have a nice little promo then for the title fight.
Tonight, the reigning champion fights for second crown.
Claims the victory.
Wins the Grand Prix. Equus wins in Brazil. A fantastic race from the Williams and a fantastic battling from Luke.
Here we go then. We are ready to get started then for Qatar. This is going to be an epic 57-lap Grand Prix then as we get ourselves underway. Then the championship could be won by Equus tonight. Then we'll find out then at the end of lap 57 then. But Gordo is going to do everything he can to take it to the final race of the season in a week's time in Abu Dhabi then. Let's see what we can do then as we get ourselves started then. Formation lap is underway then. And medium compound tyres is the majority, well, for the majority of the field I should say. Then only 2 drivers then opting for a different strategy then. And that is Coupe in P13 in the Williams, then hard compound tyres for him, and Ginner then P7 in the Mercedes then on the hard compound as well. Not a soft insight then to start this Grand Prix. I'm not sure it's the best race tire. Oh dear, I'm not sure it's the best race tire. I'm not sure that's the track layout then for Gordo. Deary me. Gordo is in a bit of a hurry there, it looks like, so I'm not quite sure what's going on down there for the Aston Martin, but there we are. So there we go, getting ourselves lined up then for the start of the Qatar Grand Prix. Then this is round 21 of 22, then round 21, sorry, of season 3 of the 100% League, and we get ourselves ready to start lining up the grid and to start off this Grand Prix here tonight as well. Then. Hopefully Gordo can get himself parked in the box right then. He was going very quickly down that straight, but he has got himself sorted. Thankfully, no dodgy corner starts like Las Vegas then for the 100% grid tonight, as Qatar's main straight is quite long enough to get themselves all along there very nicely indeed. Right then, here we go, getting ourselves started then. This is the championship fight then. The title is on the line, and Christopher Nkunku has scored for Chelsea. So here we go then. Right, nice camera angle thankfully to start off the race then. Hopefully we'll get ourselves some position changes to see who's moving and shaking then at the start of this Grand Prix. DRS has been disabled then as the 5 red lights come on here in Qatar then for the 100% League. The reflection's got a drive-through penalty then for a jump start. Then the 5 red lights are out here in Qatar, and away we go for the final penultimate round of the season. Then heading down towards turn 1, can Gordo cover off the racing ball then into turn 1? He has done, and now down the inside, Kiki then trying to hold on to P2 then, but round the outside goes Vesha. There's contact between the two of them, then there's all sorts of pushing and shoving there, and Kiki's lost out 3 places. Then Young, let's go around the outside. Equus up into the podium places, then Equus looking to challenge the Aston Martins then on the opening few laps. Then Young Lights and Kiki are battling away then as we head in towards the sector 2 now. We're heading into turn 3, turn 4, 5 and 6 now. Chappers and Peas are battling side by side heading in through. There's a wide car then a car going wide, sorry. There's an Alpine, and goodness me, Legends up 2 places. Then Kiki is in a bit of a fight here. He's losing out places hand over fist then into these first sector versus 2 sectors of the lap then on lap 1 here. And my goodness me, then it's a very difficult start then for Kiki. Then I'm not quite sure if he got unsettled then, or if there was contact then into turn 1 then that cost him a place or 2 then, and then put him into this fight then as well. RTB up 2 places into P7. Peas has gained 3 places. Then Kiki's dropped down to P7. Then goodness me, has been passed by RTB. Then Kiki's really struggling out there at this stage of the race then, and his opening lap I should say. Then my god, it is not going too well for Kiki as it stands. Then goodness me, it's oh dear. Hopefully he can regain his composure then in this in the latter part of this, the next part of this race then, in the next lap of this race then, as we got car going wide. Then that is Ginner I think then in the background. Then there's an Alpine then in a fight then with Ginner into the final corner. Then there's contact I think then with Justify as well then into the back of the Alpine as we go on to lap 2 of 57, sorry, not 2 of 2, lap 2 of 57 as cruising down the main straight. Then of course there's battery then concerns as we go through here, and making sure you get yourself through the corner then through the track then very nicely indeed. Then dearie me, Tori and Ginner then seem to be in a bit of a scrap. Then go through turn 2 round the outside. Then goes Tori. Can he hold it is the question. Then into turn 3. Then next is going to be side by side through here then, and here comes Ginger Rage. Then Ginger Rage is storming through the field. Then down the inside he goes. Then can he get himself past the Alpine? Not quite then. Oh my goodness me. Then reflections into the pits to serve his drive through penalty. And my god, that jump start was not good news for the Mercedes driver, unfortunately. There we go. Then Coupe and Justify battling away then side by side in the Williams and the Ferrari. And Coop then on the hard compound tyres then is going to be struggling, goodness me. And Mushroom has snuck through as well there. But Coop then struggling, I think, on those hard compound tyres at this stage of the race then. We'll switch onto the tyre situation as it is now. And there is two drivers on the hards then. Both have lost out positions. And, of course, on this race start as well then. Not a surprise then compared to the majority of the grid then on the medium compound tyres. Lap 2 of 57 then as we get ourselves through. There could be some two-stoppers going on in this race. We would imagine then, potentially. I'm not quite sure if anyone's going to try and do the one-stop around here. It might be a bit too difficult then. We'll have to wait and see. But so far so good then as we storm through lap 2, then heading into the final corner, then onto lap 3. Pease has got a 3-second penalty then for multiple track limits then already then, so the penalties are starting to roll in then as we get ourselves into lap 3. Only 2 laps completed then, and already 3-second penalties then starting to roll in, I should say. Tory and Ginner then battling away, then these two then switching places into turn 1. There's contact through turn 1, then round the outside goes the Alp. Can he hold the position? Now he's got the inside for the next turn, then can he get himself past that Mercedes then? But Ginner is fighting tooth and nail on the hard compound tyre. Oh my goodness me, it's going to get tight through there then, and thankfully they got themselves squeezed through indeed. Have they? Oh goodness me, no he's not, he's going for it. He's going down the inside then, my god. And this is not helping. Ginner's got a 3-second penalty then for his troubles as well then as we head into the hairpin section of Sector 2. Now Equaz has been passed by Younglights then. Younglights up into P3, and Younglights taking that podium away from the Williams driver, then potential champion as well here tonight for Equaz then. But Younglights then is saying, no, I'm not having any of that then. I'm going down the inside and I'm taking that place then. I'm taking the podium away from you. And he has done so far on lap 3, that is. But there's still plenty of racing to go. Then there's been an action-packed start then to this Grand Prix. Ginner and Tory battling away have lost 2 seconds to the top 10 then for that pack behind now, unfortunately. And it is starting to get a bit bunched up behind Tory now. Of course, Ginner and Tory then were battling then at the lead of this train. Then that is now a 2.3 second gap then to the top 10 as we go through. Then R2B is trying to hold on to Legend then, but he's 1.4 seconds behind. That could open the door for Kiki to get himself back up into P6 here very shortly. Let's go Mushroom, says Big Al then as well. Then Mushroom to finish top 5 then, we hope. We'll have to wait and see then. Currently he is on the charge. We've got Vessia then, Younglights up into P2, then passing Vessia, then up into P2 now for Younglights then in the Kick Sauber. Pease has got himself past R2B then and up into P7, but he's now under threat then. The Kiki then, no it's not Kiki then, it's R2B trying to battle back then through turn 2 and 3 then, but the Kick Sauber has held on to the place now up into P7 then for Pease, I should say. Then Kiki held on to P6 for the time being now. Kiki and Pease have passed R2B, then R2B dropping down 2 places, then Ginner and Tory are battling away side by side, and my god, you're not going to get Ginger Ray trying to stick his nose in there as well, then trying to get himself past Ginner then on the inside at the hairpin, then it's going to turn to the outside for the next corner then, and there is Mushroom in the fight as well then, along with Justify. Then Coop is being stuck up in this fight as well. Both the Red Bulls as well are there, and Ewok, I should say. Goodness me, all of them are involved, and they've lost a lot of time though. All of this battling then is just costing them more and more time then to the top 10 then. I'm not sure they've realised that just yet. Then out in front, then Gorda's got a 1.1 second gap then to Younglights, and he is storming off into the distance. And can Younglights get himself back in DRS range? We will find out now, and potentially there's a detection point then on the exit of the penultimate corner. Then potentially Younglights has got that DRS then down this main straight. There's only one DRS zone, I should say, one activation point, one detection point then, and DRS has been enabled then for Younglights then heading down towards turn 1, and he could be able to challenge for the race lead then, maybe not this lap, maybe on the next lap or so. R2B then trying to hold on then to Pease, and he's got himself past then into turn 1 then, and now Kiki needs to get himself on a move then to try and catch up to Legend, then he's himself under P5, then Ginner and Tory once again switching places into turn 1 then, and now Ginger Rage is looking to get himself round the outside of the Alpine as he, oh goodness me, into turn 2. And my goodness me, they've got themselves through just about. Then Ginger Rage a bit out of shape then into turn 3. And Mushroom is looking to line up a move potentially. No, he's not quite. Then Ginner has got himself up into P11 now. And Tory is the ERS like flashing away for Ginner. Then that's just going to show that Ginger Rage has let his teammate through. Oh my god, then he's gone for a dive. Then Mushroom then is a bit defensive on that one. He didn't know Ginger Rage was coming, I don't think then. But Mushroom has got himself up to P13. I think a bit of team orders down at McLaren then. But I'm not sure they orchestrated it just in the right place of the circuit circuit then as Ewok's got himself past Vintage. Vintage has had a problem then. He's off the circuit slightly then, hoping to get himself back on the way, but he's not lost too much time then, has the Red Bull driver then. Goodness me. It's all action here in Qatar then in the first 5 laps of this Grand Prix as well then. Flying through then into Sector 3, then goes the race leaders then. Young Lights then looking to put the pressure on for that race lead then on Gordo as well here in this next next straight, I should say, probably, as we go through then onto lap 6 very shortly. Now Young Lights then has got the DRS then. He's close enough. He's 3/10 away then from Gordo, then onto the main straight, then onto lap 6 we go. Then here we go for the change of the race lead then, and the Kicksauber has taken the race lead away from Gordo. Then of course the pole sitter, then Gordo needs to win and get fastest lap then to have any chance then of holding on to the title fight then, as Equaz is 51 points ahead at the beginning of this race. Then Peas has been passed by R2B into turn 1 as well. Then now R2B up into P7, then Peas down to P8 as it stands, as they carry on their fighting as well. Then Kiki cannot catch up to the top 5 then, unfortunately. Then that's going to be costly indeed then, as he starts to form another queue behind him as well. Then 5 seconds back, 5.6 seconds back. Then we go down to Tori and Jinnah. And once again, they're battling away then for P11 here. So I don't know if they've had a look at the delta that they've got then to the top 10, but it seems to be extending then quite significantly then, only 6 laps in. So maybe they would be better off not fighting each other then, and just thinking about the long game here in this race, as it is a long race itself. Then Mushroom then looking to try and get himself his nose in the vicinity then, getting himself past that Alpi, but not quite, then heading into the hairpin of, well, the second hairpin of Sector 2, and now into Sector 3 as well, then heading through into lap 6. Then here we go up in the race lead, and let's have a look and see what the Aston Martins are up to then, and are they going to try and work together then to get Gordo the win here potentially as well then, through the final corner. Then Young Lights now under pressure from the Aston Martin pair. Then there is Equaz then, the championship leader and potentially the championship winner here tonight as it stands, will get himself crowned the title top spot, the title rival, the title king here in Qatar. Then we'll have to wait and see then if that's going to be the case in 50 laps or so then, but as it stands then, Equaz just needs to score 2 points really, 2 points then if Gordo wins and gets fastest lap. Then Coop has been passed by Justify round the outside at turn 1. Then Justify then takes the place then away from the Williams driver. Then of course Williams of Coop is on the hard compound tyres, and he is going to be well, not going to be in the best situation I don't think on those tyres as it stands, but of course later on in this stint then he will phase in then, as will Jinnah then, onto the better tyre then, of course, as the medium compound tyres start to drop off a bit earlier than the hard compound. So there we go. Brilliant stuff indeed so far then. All action then, as Reflection is actually catching up to the back of the pack here, even with that drive-through penalty. Then it was as Tori picks up a 3-second penalty, then going through into Sector 2 as penalties are starting to roll in. We've got Jinnah with a penalty as well here then, so Peas, Jinnah and Tori then already got penalties in this race on lap 7 then, 3-second penalties then adding on to their race time at the end of the Grand Prix. And there we go then. Unfortunately, the track limits, like we said before the start of the stream, then track limits then can be a bit dangerous around here then, especially with the very fast flowing corners in, and there's not much issue with the runoff then as well then, so it does encourage you slightly to go a bit wide if you don't get the corner just right then. And yeah, there we go then. Ginger Rage has got a penalty as well then. Goodness me, then he is hoping to not get disqualified in this race then, is Ginger Rage then, currently 8 laps in then, I think, with the maths, and if he gets 3 seconds every 8 laps he would be probably okay then to get to the end of the race without getting disqualified. But what do I know? There we go then. Chappers and Peas very close together through turn 1, but no moves being made then at this stage then just yet. Then Kiki then 1.9 seconds off the top 5 then. Unfortunately that gap is extended. He can see them in the foreground there going into Sector 2 very shortly. Right then, who is next to try and have a fight then? We've got to see this battle once again then. Tori then seems to have settled into P12 for the time being, and I think maybe thinking about the long game here with Jinnah then, and they've got a 7-second gap now to the top 10, which is very good news then for if you're Kamara racer, then he can just save a bit of ERS, save a bit of fuel, save his tyres as well then at this stage, and he's in the train then with the top 10 as it stands, and doesn't have to worry about the threat from behind at all, and as at this moment in time, of course, but at the moment he can just make sure he can get himself further into this stint then, cruise into this stint then, and of course save some resources then for the battle at the end of this race, or towards the end of the race, into the second half of the race, I should say then. Right then, out in front then, Gordo is 0.7 of a second behind Young Lights. Then he needs to hold on to that Kicksauber, then he needs to get himself back past that Kicksauber if he can really, as we go through into the final quarter then. On lap 8 then, Jinnah picks up another penalty, and that's 3 second penalties then for 6 seconds in total for Jinnah. Then Justify picks up a penalty as well. Then the penalties are starting to to roll in here on lap 9 now. Heading through into towards turn 1, then Gordo has closed up then to the back of that kicks over, then into turn 1, but not quite close enough. Then Kiki has been passed by R2B, then into turn 1 as well. Then R2B up into P6 here. And now on the charge, Reflection picks up a penalty as well. Then goodness me, the penalties are rolling in here as Ginger Age and Justify are in a bit of a fight as well. Then going through turn 1 and 2, and now into turn 3 as he's got the inside. Then Justify round the outside there. Brilliant stuff indeed. And can he hold it is the question. Yes, he can. Then good stuff from Justify. Then up into P14, splitting the two McLarens then as Pease goes diving down the inside then. And there could be a nice little switchback then from Chappers. And he has done the switchback very nicely needed in the Haas then for Chappers. Then up into P8 or back up into P8 then, with Pease going a bit deep then into that hairpin as well then. Good stuff. Good battling as well then. Very clean stuff indeed then. 2.3 seconds the gap then between R2B then and the top 5 then. The gap's extending then at this stage of the race as well then. Where is the gap then? 6.6 seconds between Jinner and Kamara Racer as it stands as well then on lap 9. My goodness me, I'm about to swallow my tongue. Oh, God. only 9 laps in then and I'm already getting out of breath. But so far so good then as we go through. As Pease picks up another penalty then. My goodness me then. I think there's that 6 seconds for Pease as well then. So 6 for Jinner then 6 for Pease. Kamara Racer's picked up a penalty as well then. Goodness me, I think that might be 6 seconds for Kamara Racer as well then. Goodness me, it's 3 seconds for Kamara Racer. I'm very sorry. I got that wrong. Here comes Pease, then he's on the charge, heading through into lap 10 now as well, then trying to put the pressure on, then can he get himself back up into P8, then here, yes he can. Ewok's picked up a penalty as well, then goodness me, the penalties are definitely rolling in out there at this stage of the race then, as the drivers then get themselves through the first 10 laps or so. Then Tori has passed Jinner then into turn 1, then up into P11 then for Tori, then good stuff indeed then for the Alpine. Then now can he try and kick on then at this stage of the lap? Then unfortunately he's not really cruising away from Jinner at this point, but of course then these two have been battling then for the first or the opening 10 laps as it stands so far as well then. So they are very familiar with each other's race as it's at this point of the Grand Prix anyway. And of course Jinner then will look to use those hard compound tyres to his advantage later on in this stint as well then. Goodness me, I thought he went into the back then and that is cost him a bit of traction then. And Mushroom might be looking to open the door then and slide his way through in the McLaren very soon as Ewok has left the session then. So that is not good news for Ewok. And there we go then. Unfortunately, like I said, Ewok then out of the race and as it stands then he's not going to get himself back in, unless he can get himself back in the car. But he can hopefully just join off the old invitation. So good stuff. And then Gordo then is trying to keep up with Young Lights still. Then unfortunately Gordo's not been able to get himself back past Young Lights then, which would have been the best position I think for Gordo then to try and fight then for the race win here tonight. Of course, if you want to win the race, you have to be first. But right, here comes Gordo on the charge. Can he get himself past Young Lights then in towards turn 1 then, or is he going to stay behind? Then Vessia is going to go for a move instead. Then is he on his teammate then? And that is, well, my goodness me, there's contact between the Aston Martins as well then. And just like we saw actually last season with Gordo and Vessia, they didn't work together as teammates back in China then. And that is when Gordo won the championship as well in China in that Grand Prix. But it didn't matter too much in terms of the positions then. It does matter a bit more tonight than if it stays like this then. Of course, if Equise, even if Equise not scoring then, if Equise didn't score in this race then and Gordo stayed P3, it would not be enough then to continue the championship fight then on to Abu Dhabi in a week's time then. So Equaz would be crowned the champion then. And unfortunately, Gordo then, I'm not sure if he wanted that from Vessia then, but fair enough. I don't think there's any teamwork going down on Aston Martin, let's just put it that way. Or if there is, then it's not been communicated very well then between the two drivers, I don't think, at this point of the race as it stands then. Justify going a bit wide then, and that is maybe open the door for Ginger Race to try and slide his way through then into the second hairpin of Sector 2, then not quite though, as we head into lap 11 now as well. Then Chappers picks up a penalty as well, then Chappers then with his first 3-second penalty then of the evening. Like I said, there's penalties rolling in here on lap 11 as well. Then there's all sorts of penalties then down the order then, but the top 7 I should say then are all looking very good indeed. And Tori picks up a 3-second penalty as I said that as well. And there we go then, heading on to lap 12 now as well, flying down the straight. Then here comes Vessia on the attack then. Can he get himself past Young Lights here? Maybe there was some teamwork then down at Aston Martin, and maybe Vessia has got some more pace in the belt then to try and get himself ahead of Young Lights then and try and hold up the pack potentially. We'll have to wait and see then. Can he get himself past is the question though. Tori then is being passed by Mushroom then into turn 1, then up into P12 I should say, goes Mushroom. Justify looking to try and shake for a move as well. Then Tori then has gone wide, but he's got himself into P. He's stays P13 ahead of the Ferrari for the time being as well. Then good stuff indeed. Ginger Age then waiting in the wings, and as is Coupe, then as is Hungry Stars, then Vintage unfortunately a bit further back though after that spin. Then an Ewok then not in the car then tonight, and Reflection recovering from his drive-through penalty then on lap 1. But hopefully he can get himself back in this race, and he's done a good job of bringing that gap down very quickly indeed. Then has Reflection as well, so fair play indeed to the Mercedes driver. Then out in front, the two Aston Martins challenging for the race lead. Then Equaz in P4 just comfortably sitting there. I don't think he's not too worried then, is Equaz, as it stands. Then he doesn't have to worry about it too much. He can finish in P9 here tonight then, and Gordo still has to get the fastest lap and the race win then, and Equaz still wins the championship then, so he doesn't have to worry too much. Then he can just even let Legend go by if he wants to then, as Pease picks up another penalty unfortunately for Pease. I think maybe going for the disqualification record then around here. Final corner then of lap 12, then onto lap 13. Then Young Lights leads the way. Then here comes Vessier on the charge. Then can Vessier get himself into the race lead? Then Ewok is back in the car, or back in the session at least. Then here comes Vessier on the attack. Then goodness me, he's switched late then to the right hand side, then down the inside at turn 1. Then has he got the move? Then has he got the lead of the Grand Prix? Yes, he has, I think. Has he? No, not quite. Round the outside at turn 2, and now he's got the inside for turn 3. Potentially this is the move when he holds on to the lead. Then yes, he has done very good stuff indeed then. And now into turn 4, then the Aston Martin leads the way. Then it's not the safety car just yet, it's the Aston Martin of Vessier. Then good stuff indeed from Vessier, then taking the lead of the Grand Prix on lap 13 then into sector 2. Very good stuff from all the drivers, to be fair, so far in this race. Then I've praised them, and now they're going to do something horrible. But there we go. That is just the way of the commentator's curse, isn't it then? But so far so good then. Sector 2 now for the Aston Martin, leading the way then of Vessier. Then Young Lights P2, Gordo P3. Then Gordo needs to get himself the win and fastest lap, and hope that Equaz doesn't score to carry on the title fight then in the Drivers' Championship, that is, between these two. But we'll wait and see. Then Ewok, I think, is back in the car and can get himself back underway. Then Legend, then P5, just cruising along in the back of this queue. Then as it stands, then R to beat P6, then 2.7 seconds behind the top 5. Then Kiki, then right behind him P7, then Pease in P8. Then picking up the penalties, unfortunately, for Pease. Then Kamara Racer in P9, and Chappers rounding off the top 10. I think Chappers has been passed by Kamara Racer, then he might have had an issue somewhere. 8 seconds, the gap back to Jinner then, but unfortunately, Jinner then has Jinner and Tori. Then the battling that they did in the first sort of 5 laps or so has very much cost them indeed. Here comes Kiki, then look at, oh no, we've got a change for the race lead. There's Ginger Age picking up a penalty. Then Young Lights takes the lead into turn 1, then passing Vessier, or repassing Vessier, then into P1, then for the kick sab. Then good stuff indeed, then heading into turn 1 and 2. And these two, I think, are going to be starting to switch places, then switch positions, and as the top 5 filter through into turn 3 and 4. And there you go, you can see the gap then between Legend and Kiki. Then 3 seconds now the gap then for the Racing Bull to try and catch up to the top 5 and get himself back in the fight then for some big points, then big podiums potentially as well then. So far so good then. R2 beat then has dropped behind Kiki then on that main straight. Then Kiki got himself past with some DRS. Then Pease is in the in this queue as well. Then so is Kamara, so is Chappers. Then 8 seconds back. Then outside the top 10 is Jinner. And then we've got Mushroom then, who's got no penalties as it stands as well. Tori then in P13. Justify P14. Coupe in P15. Hoping those hard compound tyres start to phase in then in this next lap or so, I would imagine then, because he needs to try and get himself past this this fighting pack very quickly indeed in the next few stages of this race and a few laps of this race, I should say. Ginger Age then P16, then Hungry Stars P17, Vintage P18 then, and Reflection P19. Ewok, I think, has got himself back in the car, thankfully. I think he has. Yes, he has. And back underway then for the Ferrari driver as well. Then good stuff indeed. Right then, cracking on to lap 15. Now Jinner has picked up a 3-second penalty, then another penalty then for the Mercedes driver. Unfortunately, it's going to get very costly indeed then towards the end of this race. And here comes Vessier then on the charge. Then Vessier charging up into P1, back up into P1, I should say. Then into the pits comes Pease to call it a day then on the medium compound tyres. So 15 laps or so on the medium compound tyres. Then Vessier's held on to the lead, has he? Or Young Lights trying to go around the outside. He's turning to the inside here, going through turn 2. They're almost pushing each other through the corner then. It looks like Young Lights is all over the back of that Aston Martin heading into turn 4. Then Ginger Age is in the pits as well then. Calling it a day then. Justify's got himself past Tori, has he? No, not quite then. Justify's been pushed off the circuit slightly then by Tori. Well, not off the circuit, pushed out of the way slightly. Then Mushroom's got himself up into P10, then into the points paying positions now. Jinner down to P11, then Tori up into P12. Justify P13. Into the pits comes Pease then for medium compound tyres. He's gone medium again, then has Pease. Ginger Rage has gone for the hard compound tyres then, and he's coming out of the pit lane now. He's going to be behind Ewok, I think, then in towards turn 1. But he is now on a fresh set of tyres as well here. So 2 drivers then putting for the fresh tyres then alternating the stops as well, though. Medium compound tyres for the kick sour, then hard compound tyres for the McLaren. Coupe then has passed Justify, then Coupe now on the hard compound tyres, maybe starting to phase in then at this point of the race then into his optimum pace now on those hard compounds compared to those on the mediums that are starting to drop off, it looks like then, because Peas and Ginger Rage both were on the medium compound tyre, then both decided to pit then and call it a day then on their respective compound of tyre as well. Then Vessia is holding on to the lead, that Ewok's picked up a penalty unfortunately for Ewok, then he's trying to get himself back underway in this race. Then into the pits comes Gordo. Gordo is calling it a day then on these medium compound tyres as well. Then he's slowing himself down for the pit lane, I should say. Kiki's into the pits as well then, and Kiki slows the car down just in time. That pit limiter then is very precarious indeed, then trying to get that spot right as Younglux has got himself past Vessia, then up into P1, back up into P1 I should say, then for the kick sour, then into the pit lane. Let's have a look and see what they're going to go on to next is the question. Then Gordo has gone for hard compound tyres, Kiki has gone for medium compound tyres. Where will they come out in respects to RELPs? Where will they come out then in respect to Peas? There is Peas then coming down the main straight. Then Gordo is going to be ahead, I think, but I don't know if Kiki can get ahead of the Peas. Can he? No, not quite. Then Peas comes out in P15 and Kiki comes out, sorry, in P16 behind the kick sour. Then Gordo is ahead by 3 seconds or so. He's on the hard compound tyre, then he's Gordo. Fantastic stuff indeed. Then away we go, then charging down into lap 16. Then we're flying through these laps, to be fair, which very good stuff indeed. Then just shows the talent then on show here tonight. Then fantastic racing so far in this Grand Prix. Then I've probably jinxed it now, but there we go. That is, like I keep saying, the commentator's curse then in a nutshell then. As we go through then into sector 3 then to finish off this 16th lap then of the Grand Prix. Then Vessia is in P2. Then Younglux has reclaimed the lead then as we head into the final quarter then on lap 16 as well. Then so far so good. Then the Ginger Age has done 1 lap on his hard compound tyres. Will they be the best tyre then is the question. Then Ewok and Vintage are switching places. Then Ewok's left the session again then, so he's having a problem then with his internet issues, I think, or internet connection I should say. Then as we go through in towards turn 1, can Vessia go for the overtake? Not quite. Then no more pit stop action on this lap then for the top of the order. It doesn't look like they've all stayed out then at this stage of the race. Will Mushroom pit? No, Mushroom stayed out. Then we've got somebody in the background going for the pit lane. It's Hungry Styles very slowly into the pit lane as well. Then my goodness me, then he has got himself into the box now, and Gordon then's going to go through then for P13. Then Styles then will pit then from the medium compound tyres and switch on to a set of medium compound tyres. So there we go, then medium then for Stars as well then. So a few drivers opting for the medium strategy here. What is Justify's got himself past Tory then as well, then up into P11 now for Justify, right behind Coupe. Then Coupe has got himself into a fight with Mushroom then for that P9 position. Then of course Mushroom is yet to pit. Then there is a few drivers behind them who have pitted that will regain those places then when they do come through to the pit stop phases as well for the remaining drivers who've stayed out. Then Pease picks up another penalty, unfortunately for Pease. It's stacking up out there for the penalty situation then, but he's cracking on then nonetheless. Then he is the fastest man on track as well out here as it stands. So far, so good then as we head into lap 17, then 40 laps remaining. Then it's quite a long way to go still, but they have sped through the first 17 then. Brilliantly well done indeed then to all the 20 drivers then still on the grid then. 19 drivers unfortunately for Ewok, he is disconnected, but hopefully he can get himself back in the session once again then as DRS then for Vessia. Then can he take back the lead then into turn 1 this time? Then DRS is bringing him into contention very quickly indeed. 0.2 of a second, 0.1 of a second. Then can he get himself past? Not quite. He stays behind and stays in P2, I should say. That guy's up into P3, stays P3, Legend, then P4, then R2 then 2.9 seconds behind. Then into the pits comes Mushroom. Mushroom is calling it a day on those hard compound tyres, and same as Styles then, very slow. No, that's not the pit entry. That is, I thought he's already in the pit lane. I thought he was slowing down that slow to get himself through the into the pit lane, I should say, but not quite. Mushroom medium compound tyres going on then for another time, then another stint I should say then on those medium compound tyres as well. Fantastic. Where is Mushroom then? And Reflection's gone through there, but Mushroom will come out ahead of his teammate, I think, just about. Will he, is the question. Yes, there he is, and there is Ginger Age in the background then, and Mushroom has got himself into P16, and he stays ahead of Ginger Age just for the time being, that is. Ginger Age has gone for the hard compound tyre, though, so he'll be going longer, just like Chappers, not just like Coupe and Ginger then in their first stints then in this race. Then, of course, Hungry Styles, no, Ginger Age, sorry, will be going longer in his second stint on those hard compound tyres. Then only 4 hard compound tyres in sight then in this grid, so potentially maybe not the best race tyre then. Maybe the medium compound tyre is the best race tyre, which is why people have chosen to go on it twice so far in this race and not touch the softs or the hards just yet. Then here comes Vessia once again then onto the main straight, then onto lap 19 here. DRS once again enabled and once again available then for the Aston Martin. And heading into turn 1 then, is he going to go for a move down the outside? No, not quite. He stays behind P2 once again then, right behind Young Lights as well. Then Equaz and Legend being pulled along then in the background. Then between these four then is the fight for the podium places as it stands. And of course Gordo is probably in a net position then to get himself back onto the podium places at least, potentially, as Justified passes Coop then into P9 then for Justify. Then the soldiering on then in the Ferrari then on those medium compound tyres. Then quite a few then the top 11 have yet to pit. Then Reflection, Vintage and Ewok then yet to pit as well, unfortunately, in this race as it stands for those three as well. My God, I'm very well. I think I shouldn't have eaten just before I started commentating, but I needed to eat to have some energy. But there we go. Then Coop then is now trying to get himself past Justify, I should say. Jenna's got a 7-second gap then to the top 7, then a 3-second gap back to Justify. So he's in a bit of no man's land now. Is Jenna then on the hard compound tyres potentially? That could be quite good news then, because he could try and use the pace on those hards now that they're starting to phase in better than the medium compound tyre. Then he could start to use those hard compound tyres then to his advantage to bring the gap down then to those ahead of him here as well. Who is next to coming to the pit lane? Then lap 19 turns to lap 20. Then Young Light stays out. Then so does Vessia. Then Equaz stays out as well. Sorry, it's Legend into the pit lane. Sorry, behind us. And Legend then slowed the car down. Then into the pit lane goes the Haas car. Then R2 takes P4. Vessia has taken the lead of the Grand Prix into turn 1. Then down the inside. Then he takes the place. Then passing Young Lights into the first turn of lap 20. Then and up into P1 for the Aston Martin once again. Then into the pits as Kamara Racer as well. Then he's calling it a day. Then on the medium compound tyre. I think, yes, he is. He's gone for another set of medium compound tyres as well then. So medium then for quite a few drivers out there. Then Legend gone for the hard compound tyre. We've got all sorts of action here as we've got Kiki, we've got Peas, we've got Gordo. Gordo's had an issue somewhere because he's lost out to Kiki. He's lost out to Peas as we go into turn 1. Then, oh dear, almost 3 wide. They're going on the exit of turn 1. Then Peas holds the place now. But Kiki then is all over the back of him here. Then heading through turn 3 and into turn 4 potentially as well now. Oh my God. And well, these two on the medium compound tyres, and Gordo is on the hard compound tyres. And Gordo has had an issue somewhere because he has lost a lot of time then to Peas and to Kiki. And Legend is only 2.3 seconds behind as well here. So not quite sure what's happened then for those two. Potentially Peas and Kiki then are on for a 2-stopper here. And maybe Gordo and Legend are on for a 1-stopper. We'll have to wait and see then, as we've only got 37 laps of racing to be unfolding right in front of our very eyes then in the next few minutes or so, but at the moment it seems to be quite status quo. The top 3 staying out then once again then onto lap 21. They are cruising along down the pit straight, and no, nothing changing then in that order. Then, of course, as we have got a change actually, so we've got Young Lights then back up into the race lead, and passing Vessia then for P1 then up into the top spot then for the green machine, or light green machine, compared to the dark green machine. Then Justify then looking to put the pressure on the Williams of Coop, I should say. Then goodness me, heading into turn 1. Then Justify then with the DRS. Then the Alpine of Tory is right behind us as well. Then Kiki's got himself past P's then into turn 1 then, and Gordo almost into the back then of the kickstart, then into turn 1 as well. Then my nose is running and I'm about to sneeze, I'm afraid, so bear me 1 second. I'll try and mute in time. Oh no, I won't. Yes, I will. Job done. Right then, back underway then. Hungry Stars has passed Ginger Rage, sorry. Stars, of course, on the medium compound tyres. Will be very quicker, much quicker, I would imagine, at this stage of the race then compared to the slightly older, but only 6-lap-old hard compound tyres. Fresh mediums then will be much more indicative of his true pace right now, I should say. Then as Reflection picks up a penalty, unfortunately, for Reflection. But there we go. Then the top 9 yet to pit. Then Reflection also yet to pit as well in this Grand Prix. Then maybe holding out for a safety car here. We'll have to wait and see. But the gap's starting to emerge in the top of the order. Then will there be some pit stops for the top 3? No, not again. Then carrying on once again as well. Then for the champion-elect, I should say, then of Equaz currently. As I said at the beginning, all he needs to do is score 2 points then, and even if Gordo wins with fastest lap, then Equaz is crowned the champion if he scores those 2 points. Then if Equaz doesn't score, then Gordo still needs to win then and get the fastest lap to carry on the title fight then to Abu Dhabi in a week's time then for the final round of the season. Kiki set the fastest lap of the race, then Justified passing Coop then into P7 then for Justified. Good stuff indeed. Kiki has got the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Then he has got himself into P10. Then he's ahead of P's, ahead of Gordo. Then then, and Legend then is 3 seconds back then into turn 1, then goes Legend, then Kamara Racers pitted for the fresh medium compound tyres as well then, so I think there's quite a bit of a split then, as Mushroom has passed Reflection then for P15. There's quite a bit of a split then in terms of the strategies out here, because there's, I think, a few drivers going for double medium then on their second stint then on the medium compound tyres after starting on the medium compound tyres in their first stint. So potentially we'll have to pit then in the in a few laps time or so then for another set of medium compound tyres or another set of soft compound tyres or even hard compound tyres. We don't know which way they're going to go. They're going to be it's going to be all over the place. Unfortunately for Ewok then, he's not in the Grand Prix here tonight. He's unfortunately disconnected from this Grand Prix twice, that is now as well, which is a big shame there. Hopefully he can get himself back in then, but at this stage he needs a safety car to get himself back in contention as well here. But so far so good then for the rest of the field then as we go through then on to lap 22, and no, we're staying out again then, says the top 3 then. So they're cracking on then. Vessia retakes the lead then. Gordo's got a 3-second penalty. Then R2B is calling it a day then. He's into the pit lane now for the Alpine team. Gordo then with that penalty then. That's going to be costly indeed for Gordo. And unfortunately, that's going to be added on to his race time then. If he accumulates any more penalties as well, then that will be added on to his race time too. Hard compound tyres going on the Haas then for R2B. And he will lose quite a few places here, unfortunately. But will get himself back out then on a fresh set of tyres as well then. Where will he be then in comparison to Serious Mushrooms? Ginger Age picks up a penalty then going through the penultimate corner, I think then. Kiki and Peas. Where are they? Kiki and Peas. There's contact with Kiki and Peas then. And Kiki then almost driving into the rear tyre then of Peas. And unfortunately, that was not going to come off well then for either driver then. Thankfully for Peas, then he regained the place then and held on to the place then, because Kiki then was a bit aggressive there at that point of the race, it looked like. Back that point of the quarter, I should say then. And Peas has got himself up into P9 then. Can he chase down Tory then? They're on much younger tyres, these 3 then, compared to these 4, 5, 6, 7. And goodness me, there's all sorts. There's much younger tyres than the rest of the field ahead of them. And they should be gaining quite quickly then on these drivers as well, then heading through into Sector 2 especially, where the traction then is going to be very much more important than those compared to those then on the older tyres as well then, heading into Sector 3 now. My goodness me, it's been 24 laps of action, and it's been action-packed then here in the 100% lead then for the penultimate round of the season. And Young Lights takes back the lead then from Vessia then into turn 1. Lap 24 then has commenced then. Chapper's then 7 seconds back then from the top 3. Then he's got a gap then of 5.7 to Jinner then justified 4 seconds back then, but he's under pressure from Coop then heading down towards turn 1. And that ERS light flashing away then could encourage Coop to go for a move then into turn 1. Then yes, he's gone for it then up into P6 I should say then. Justified cannot fight that unfortunately. Then then up into P8 then he's held on. Kiki's got himself past P's I should say then, goodness me, and up into P9 then, and now into the DRS window then of that Alpine of Tory then, who is yet to pit in this race then. So the racing ball of Kiki then will be gaining very quickly indeed, especially through this sector on the traction then to that Alpine as well. Then Ginger Age has passed Styles then into P17 then for the Ginger Age. Good stuff indeed then. Styles then, I thought he went a bit deep then, but he's got himself back on the way and all sorted then. Good stuff. Kiki now all over the back then of the Alpine. Look how much he's gained in that only sector as well, that one sector as well. Then here's all over the back now of the reserve driver then heading into the sector 3. Oh my god, he can't go side by side through there surely. And my goodness me, then he had to yield, and I think then he was brilliantly wisely very wisely yielded as well then, as P is now coming through then in the kicks out. And then goodness me, I thought Tori was going to swipe in there, but I think he was just trying to slot himself into the queue so he can go through this complex of corners then as smoothly as possible. Then Justified picks up a penalty as well. I think that's Ewok's car then, unfortunately for Ewok. Then Chapper's in the pit lane, and Vessia retakes the lead then, or does he? Because Young Lights then round the outside at turn 1, then into turn 2, has got the inside then and takes back the lead then, and Vessia then back into P2 then. Chapper's then into the pits then, calling it a day then. 24 laps then on the medium compound tyres for the Haas driver. Would that indicate that he can probably do 34 laps or so then on the hard compound tyre and get him to do a one stop to the end of this race? Then same for Tory as well then. R2B goes through then into P13. Can he get himself past Chappers? Yes, he can. Ginger Age got another penalty unfortunately for Ginger Age, and then the penalty is starting to rack up then for Ginger Age and for the rest of the drivers in the field, I should say, as well. It's not just Ginger Age just yet. We'll have a look at the penalty situation then as we get to the round to the halfway point of the race. Then Legend picks up a penalty, the first penalty of the evening for Legend, I should say. Then 15 for P's, 12 for Ginger Age, then 9 for Reflection. Reflection, 9 for Tory as well, then 9 for Justify, then and 9 for Jinner. Then there's all sorts of penalty situations out there, and my goodness me, they're all over the place then, which is a big shame, I should say then. But that is the nature of the circuit, then the nature of the beast. Then if you can get yourself around here with no penalties, then and you can get yourself around here quickly with no penalties as well, then you can gain quite a lot. Then as Peace picks up his 18-second penalty with another 3-second added on to his 15 there. Right then, will the top 3 ever pit in this race then is the question. Vessia then looking to retake the lead then, and he has done once again then. Gordo is in a bit of a situation then with Peas, with Kiki, and with Coop now. Coop is yet to pit then, of course, in this race, and could be forming a bit of a block then to the those who have pitted now on their fresher tyres. Kiki, I think, will try and breeze past them with some DRS, then down the main straight, then Kiki up into P5, then passing Coop, then Reflection picks up opponent, then here comes Peas on the inside into turn 1, and he's taken the place then from Coop as we go into turn 1 and 2, then lap 26 then of 57, and we are flying through this race then very quickly indeed. Then we've done 26 laps then in the blink of an eye pretty much, and now into 30 laps remaining very shortly. We are getting through this race as quickly as possible, it looks like, for most of these drivers. And that is good news indeed then for me as well. I get to go to bed early, and Ginger Age has passed Styles, and these two in a bit of a battle then between these two, between themselves, I should say. Then at this stage, they are only 1.4 seconds away from Reflection, who's yet to pit in this race as well. Of course, had to serve that drive-through penalty. Then Vintage, unfortunately, got a penalty for his troubles as well, then for track limits there as well. Then, but like I said, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers on the grid then that have not got any penalties in the opening 26 laps, and I've probably cursed them all now, and they've all picked up another warning. Then there might be some penalties rolling in then for those 5 very soon as well then, but hopefully they are okay and they can crack on then without any penalties in this race, which will be a pretty good achievement. And nonetheless then, Vessia is diving into the pit lane, very late then into the pit lane as well then, but he has called it a day then on the medium compound tires. Equaz has followed him in as well, then Equaz into the pits as well. Then Young Lights stays out, then Young Lights has gone through and stays in P1, but Vessia then and Equaz calling it a day then on lap 26 then, at the end of lap 26 then, hopping on to a set of hard compound tyres for both of them as well. Jinner has carried on, then Jinner up into P2, then Kiki, Peas, where is Coop, then there is Coop, then Gordo as well, then Gordo and Peas up into P3, then Peas has passed, and oh, there's a hand then. Peas is up into P3. Of course, they have pitted a bit on a different strategy at this stage, then Equaz and Vessia then switching places in the pit lane, I think, there, weren't they? No, they yes, they must have done, yeah. I'm not quite sure what's happened to Vessia, then he had an issue somewhere in the pits, because he has lost a bit of time then to Equaz as well, then 1.7 seconds to say the least. Then R2B's come out in P11, then he's right behind Vessia here, and can he get himself into contention? Then Tory is into the pits, sorry, not Tory, Justify into the pits, coming out in P17, then on to the hard compound tyres. Reflection, the same hard compound tyres going on for him, and back underway then for the Mercedes driver as we head out onto lap 27 now. Right then, so far so good. Then Kiki then is on a charge. Then Peas has got himself up into a podium place here, and could be actually in the net race lead as it stands then, because of course Young Lights and Jinner have yet to pit in this Grand Prix, and we'll have to make at least one mandatory stop as well. Then if it doesn't start raining cats and dogs, then but then if it does start raining cats and dogs, I'd imagine they would pit anyway. Vintage then is onto a set of hard compound tyres and back underway as well then, and we go into the pits for the race leader of Young Lights, and Young Lights is calling it a day then on the medium compound tyres. Sorry, where is Vintage? Then where is Vintage coming out the pit lane now? Then it's going to be close indeed with Jinner then, who's coming through to lap the Red Bull. Unfortunately, then as into the pits comes Young Lights as well. Then out of the pits, sorry, comes Young Lights. He is dropping down the field like a stone. Then there we go. Oh goodness me, Equaz then having a bit of an issue then on the main straight on his own. Then as we head through then, and Young Lights will come out ahead then of the Williams driver then, just about then as well. Vessia then has lost a bit of time, then he's now under pressure from R2B, who's got himself into the DRS then of that Aston Martin and could use that to pull himself along. Of course, Vessia was a net P1, net P2 in this race then before the stops, and we've got Peas has got an issue. Peas has had an issue, then Peas is off the circuit at sector 1 then, and he's off the circuit at turn 5, I think that is, and I'm not quite sure what's happened to Peas then. We didn't see obviously anything that was going on there, but unfortunately for Peas that has been costly indeed, and has lost him a battle then, I should say, lost him a place then to the podium as it stands. And he was up into P2, I think, then with the pit stop then for Young Lights, his teammate as well. Then goodness me, Peas is back underway, then hopefully he can soldier on then in this race there. Young Lights now on the hard compound tyres, we're looking to get that 3-second gap down to his teammate then as well. Equaz then staying with the kick sour, then more yellow flags. It's more problems for Peas. Then Peas is off the circuit somewhere and trying to get himself back underway. I think he has done just about in time. Then Chappers then is cruising into into the 4A as well. Then heading through. My God, then well, Pease just drove off the circuit then to avoid Chappers, I think. Then, but Chappers then was I think going to get past pretty quickly indeed, because he was going to have some DRS. Then he was going to have some extra tyre life as well. Then as we head on to oh dear, Coop's lost 2 places. Then Legend has gone through. Kamara has gone through. Then down the inside into turn 1. Then and Coop is down to P6, I should say. Then Pease is in the pit lane. Pease is calling it a day. Pease has quit in the pit lane, so that's him done and dusted in this race. And good stuff indeed. The first DNF then of the Grand Prix then is Pease giving up in the pit lane. R2B and Vessia then switching places. Then Vessia has been got himself past the Alpine up into P9 now. 1.6 seconds away from Equaz. Of course, he was battling Equaz for the race lead at one point. And he was battling Young Lights as well, actually, for the race lead. But of course, well, I'm not quite sure what happened to Vessia in the pit lane there. He seemed to have some sort of issue, didn't he? Because he came out behind Equaz, and Equaz was behind him into the pits as well. Then, so there we go. Then yellow flags are fluttering for that kick Sauber that's coming out of the pit lane now. Then hopefully it doesn't cause any issues for that Mercedes, or was that an Alpine? I'm not quite sure which colour it is, but there we go. So there we are. Right then, Jinner then is the only man. Oh no, Ewok of course is Ewok's ghost car. Then is the only man. Well, so is Coop as well. Coop and Jinner then started on the hard compound tire. Started this Grand Prix then on the hard compound tire, and are now cruising then on to lap 30 very shortly. And yeah, there we go. Then Jinner then leads away by 4 seconds. Of course, I think there's a bit of an offset in strategy then for Kiki, for Gordo, potentially for Kamara and Legend as well. Then maybe for Mushroom, Styles, Ginger Rage, and that's it. I think then everyone else I think is going to the end of the Grand Prix. Then potentially those drivers then have to pit again in this race. Then maybe go for a 2-stop. Then maybe that's the faster strategy then compared to a 1-stop. We'll have to wait and see. R2B passes Vessia then for P9, and up into P9 then goes the Alpine, then passing the Aston Martin. But of course, Vessia then was battling with Equaz and Young Lights for the race lead. Then unfortunately, that whatever happened in the pit stop phase then just has unsettled the Aston Martin driver then quite significantly. Then he's lost out. Then as Tory and Justify are switching places. Then Tory, oh dear, where are they then? There they are. Goodness me, I can't even tell what's going on here because of the camera angle there. But Justify's got the inside for the next turn then, and now Tory has the inside for the next turn. And we go around the outside for Justify. Then can he hold on to it? Can he keep the place? Then yes, he can. Oh, can he? Goodness me, it's close. And Tory then just slots in then into P16 then. Good stuff indeed. Lap 30 then of 57, then we're over halfway. I didn't even notice the halfway point because it's been such a brilliant race. Then Ewok's ghost car has pitted for hard compound tyres, but fair play indeed. But unfortunately, I don't think Ewok is in the car then to claim any credit for that. Then Jinner then is carrying on then onto lap 31 then here of 57. Then currently as it stands, Gordo P3 and Equaz P8 then would be enough still for Equaz to be crowned the champion here tonight. Then at this point in time, then of course there could be some more chopping and changing of positions though later on in this race. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. Then currently 5 drivers without penalties. That is Young Lights, Equaz, R2B, Vessia and Mushroom. I'd probably curse them all now, but Vessia then up into P9, then passing R2B, then into turn 1. Then yes, he's done it. Good stuff indeed. Then Young Lights unfortunately, or so Equaz unfortunately has dropped out of the DRS range then of Young Lights. Then he needs to be battling then for the race win, potentially on the cards then for Equaz. We will wait and see. Then Ginger Age has passed Hungry Styles. These two carrying on their fight then in this stint as well. Then they've done a brilliant job so far of keeping the fight alive then into turn 1 then for these two, and cracking on then once again then for that for those two as well. Then Gordo, oh god, swallowed my tongue. Gordo has trying to get himself into a fight then with Kiki. Then Kiki's tyres, I think he's done medium then in this stint in terms of the 2 stints that he's done so far in this race. Then so he will have to pit again then for a hard or a soft compound tyre, provided that it stays dry then in this race. But Gordon then might start to fancy his chances of getting past that racing bull then in the next lap or two then, because the medium compound tyres will have started to drop off already then, but might have started to get into their graining phase. Then Kamara Race then has got 4 lap younger tyres than Kiki. He is in P4 then as it stands. Then into the pits comes Jinner then from the race lead. Then he's calling it a day finally now on his hard compound tyres. He's done 32 laps then on those hards as well. Fantastic stint then from the start of this Grand Prix. Then where will he come out? Then Coop is also in the pits as well. Then 2 drivers who started on the hard compound tyres are calling it a day now on their hards and switching potentially Where's Jin? And then Jin has switched to the medium compound tyres. There we go, switching to the medium compound tyres potentially. We should hope. But there we go then, out of the pit lane. Where will they be, though, is the question then. Between the McLarens, potentially then for Jin, and then as Mushroom then goes through for P10. And Mushroom has done 14 laps more, 14 lap more on his medium compound tyres than Jin, who's just come out of the pit lane now. Then Coop is going to come out then very close indeed between Tory and Justify, then heading into turn 1 then. Oh dear, Tory seems to be all over the place then, heading down that DRS straight then. Hopefully we can get that sorted. And we can crack on then as we go through into lap 32 then of 57. And Gorda then is looking to get himself back up into the race lead then, and Kiki now resumes or retakes the lead. I think it was as he did briefly lead it for the beginning, I think, but of course had the issues then on the first lap. Then after that race start as well, then heading into sector 3 now on lap 32, then passing the Ferrari of Ewok's Ghost Car, who's not in the session unfortunately, but well, technically the second retirement then of this race then after P's pit in the quit lane. Quit in the pit lane. There we go. So that was an interesting way of saying it. Then Gordo then looking to line up a move for the race lead, then onto the main straight. Then he's got lap 33 to take the lead. Then here he goes then in towards turn 1. Then he has done it. He has passed. He's up into P1 and takes the lead of the Grand Prix away from Kiki now. This is the question then. Can he hold on to it? Can he extend the gap then? And can he try and win this race then with the fastest lap then to take the fight then to Equaz then potentially if Equaz doesn't finish then and Gordo wins the Grand Prix with the fastest lap, then it will carry on. Then between the gap, there'll be 1 point between them, then still into Abu Dhabi. Serious Mushroom is in the pit lane. Serious Mushroom's gone for the soft compound tyre. My goodness me. Not quite sure that's going to work then for Mushroom, unfortunately, but we'll see. But I'm not quite sure the soft compound tyre is going to be the best tyre then for the McLaren then to get himself to the end of the Grand Prix from here. But nonetheless, what do I know then? We know that Mushroom knows something because he's gone onto the soft compound tyre regardless, and away he goes. Good stuff. Right then, top 3 then, or top 4 separated by less than a second, I should say. Then I think Legend is trying to get himself back in that window, but it is going very well then for the top 4 as it stands. Then Young Lights then is on fresher, hard compound tyres. Of course, he's trying to do the 1-stop in this race, and I think the top 4 all opting for the 2-stop potentially here, and the 4 behind then literally of Young Lights, Equaz, R2 Beat, and Vessia are opting for the 1-stops. Then so we're going to have to find out. We're going to find out then between the top 4 and the second 4, which is the best strategy then at the end of lap 57 here. But Kiki is taking back the lead then. Kiki back up into P1 then into turn 1, and so far so good then for Kiki. Then he is looking pretty good in this stint. Then of course maybe starting to think about when his next stop will be though, because of course he's done 18 laps on his medium compound tyres already. Then Gino set the fastest lap of the race. Then he has got himself up into P10 now onto the back then of Chappers then in 3.5 seconds. Styles is also in the pits then calling it a day on the medium compound tyres. 17 laps then for Styles on those medium compounds, and there we go. Seen quite a few drivers then pitting much earlier on than they did in the first stint then compared to the previous medium stint. Then Mushroom then is cruising down the main straight, then will pass Styles then in the pit lane, and Mushroom's gone fastest in sector 3. Then that's looking promising then for Mushroom to try and set himself the fastest lap of the Grand Prix potentially then on the next lap then. Gordo, Legend, Kamara Racer then all in a fight then for the race lead. Then all of them have penalties as well then, so the penalties will start to play a factor then towards the end of this Grand Prix as well, I would imagine. 5 seconds back then is Young Lights, and he's on much fresher tyres, and that gap will start to come down then for Young Lights in the next few laps or so. Equaz then P6 and is 3 seconds back from Young Lights, unfortunately for Equaz. I don't think with Young Lights technically in the net race lead at this point, I don't think Equaz will get himself into contention for that race win, as Young Lights is cruising away into the distance very nicely indeed in the kick Sauber. R2 Beat then P7 then looking for a good result then here tonight then for R2 Beat. Then he's done a good job so far in this race, and looking very strong then for the Alpine. Then Vessia then PA I should say then has dropped down behind R2 Beat, but these 3 are now in the fight for potentially a podium place then, or a net podium place at the end of this one. And here comes R2 Beat down the inside, then he's got himself over to P6, then passing Equaz into turn 1 and has taken that place away then from the Williams driver. Then good stuff indeed. And there we go then, Coop, and then is trying to put the fight on with Justify, then heading down the main straight as well. Then we've got Tori then right behind us as well, then on the hard compound tyres. Then Mushroom is 13 seconds behind. We've got Vessia and Equaz battling away. Then Equaz has dropped down to P8 here as well. I'm not quite sure. Has Equaz got some sort of issue then? Hopefully not then for the championship elect potentially for the driver's title, that is. But Equaz has lost out 2 places then. Maybe he didn't want to fight then, did Equaz? Then maybe he just wants to stay behind it and conserve his battery, then conserve his tyres then, and just wait for the best moment, then potentially just wait and stay P8 as well then. Well, that's very good rhyming slang, yeah, wait and stay P8 then for Equaz then, because he doesn't need to worry. He just needs to score 2 points then, and P8 will score him 4 points at this point, so he will be very happy about that. Then he will still win the title as it stands as well. Kiki picks up a penalty then as we go through into the final corner then on lap 35, then on to lap 36 now. We are cruising through, then 20 laps to go, then 21 laps to go then at the end of this one, and so far so good then for the 18 runners and riders that are still in this race. Then unfortunately P's out of the race then in the pit lane then, and Ewok then has disconnected then. He's not in the car then in the Ferrari, unfortunately for Ewok then. Hopefully he can get that sorted for the next race, and we'll have him back then for another run out then in the Ferrari as well then, but we'll stay tuned. But there we go then, Jinner and Chappers. Oh dear, Chappers has had a bit of an issue there somewhere, it seems, and there we go then. Tori then has got a 3-second motor, then Chappers seem to be wobbling about then. I'm not quite sure what happened to the Haas then onto the main straight, wasn't it there? So yeah, a bit of an odd one that, but Chappers is still going and pointing in the right direction, which is good stuff. And Gordon then is trying to get himself up into P1 still. Mushroom is back in the pit lane, so Mushroom has called it a day then on the soft compound tyres, and he's into the pits then for Mushroom, and that was quite a interesting call then, and maybe it was Mushroom then having his typical glitch then, where typical MFD glitch I should say, rather than Mushroom glitching. But he's had the issue before, I think, then where his MFD changes its tyres on its own then, it seems. But there we go then, Mushroom out of the pit, then hard compound tyres going on the McLaren now as well. My goodness me, then it's been 36 laps of action then since we got going at the checkered flag at the start-finish lights. But there we go then, into the pits comes Kiki. Then Kiki calling it a day now on the medium compound tyre. He's done 21 laps then on those medium compound tyres as well then. So that is a pretty good stint then, I think, for Kiki. He's got 20 laps to go then. Can he get himself onto another set of mediums then, or can he go hard? Will he go hard then to the end of the race from here? It looks like the hard compound tyres. I think Kiki has to do that, because he has pitted as Gorda takes the lead then from Legend, and is up into P1, then back up into P1 I should say then for Gorda. Then as these three now carry on the fight, then Young Lights only 3 seconds behind the podium places now as Kiki comes out of the pit lane. Well, goodness me, Kiki needs to get a motor on them, because there is Ginger Rage storming through then into turn 1 then, but Kiki comes out in P10 then ahead of the McLaren driver then, or does he? Because it's going to get close indeed then, because Ginger Rage has got those tyres warmed up nicely now, but Kiki needs to get the temperature into those tyres quickly, because, oh dear, there's a Red Bull in the background as well then, goodness me. Kiki needs to get the temperatures into those tyres quickly then, because Ginger Age will be all over the back of him then very quickly as well then on his much more heated up medium or hard compound tyre as well then. So that is paramount then for Kiki to try and pull away then quickly from the McLaren then, because he doesn't want to give Ginger Age anything too good, any toes or anything DRS like, or anything too nice. And that sounds like a Powerpuff Girls intro slogan then. Nothing too nice and nothing with spice, and there we go. So anyway, now that I've finished doing that, whatever that was, we've got Legend and Gorda then looking to fight for the race lead here, and here comes Legend then down the main straight, then here he goes then looking to claim the race lead into turn 1 then. Can he get himself down the inside of Gorda? Gorda's going to fight it, I think, but he doesn't need to, because Legend is already through and up into P1 then as well then on the hard compound tyres. Then can Gorda go to the end of this Grand Prix from here then? I think it might be a bit of a stretch then for those hard compound tyres, even as they've done 18 and 22 laps respectively on those hard compound tyres. Kamara Race has done 18 laps on his medium compound tyres then, and there is Young Lights in the background, 10 laps on his hards, a 1.8 second gap then to the podium places then for Young Lights as well. As it stands, it's looking pretty good then for the Kick Sauber at this moment. My goodness me. Right then, lap 38 then. We are flying through this race, as I keep saying then, but it's been absolutely spectacular stuff indeed to watch. And Young Lights then will be very keen to be watching that back end of Kamara Racers Racing Bull then in the next corner or two. And can he get himself in that 1 second window to open up that rear wing then and get himself an extra boost down the main straight of DRS speed? But that gap coming down closer and closer then, of course, as we expect Kamara Racers to have to come into the pit lane very soon. And service that car for a new set of tyres then as well then, but he is going to carry on and try and put the pressure on then at this point of the race then. Looks like Legends trying to pull a gap then on Gordo as well then, heading into the final corner of lap 38 then, but Gordo still has the DRS then onto the main straight then. Into the pits comes Kamara Racer then, 19 laps then on his tyres as well then. That is completed the stint then for the Racing Bull. Right then, Gordo held on to the DRS then just about then and stays P2 into turn 1, then Young Lights up into P3. Kamara Racer, medium compound tyres coming off the car, then hard compound tyres going on the car now, and away he goes then in the Racing Bull. Then will he come out ahead of his teammate is the question. I think it's going to be very close indeed then between Kamara Racer then and the rest of the field. Then there he is then coming out of the pit lane. He'll be behind his teammate, he'll be behind Ginger Age, he'll be behind Coop, he'll be behind Justify as well then, as R2 Beat and Vessia are having a big fight here through, oh goodness me, as through turn 4. God, there's Jitter as well. Then there's Contact, and Hungry Stars picked up a penalty as well then in that same problem as well. Jinder, oh goodness me, Hungry Stars then, as we got I think R2 Beat needs to let Jinder go through then, and he has done. Jinder up into P5 now. As no, we have more problems then, as Jinder has lost out to both drivers there, and as just I'm not quite sure what's going on then, to be honest, but whatever's happened, it's happened, and they have decided to sort themselves out on track nonetheless. Right then, out in front, the top two have got penalties. Then Young Lights up into net P1 now, I should say. Then I'd imagine that Young Lights can go to the end of the Grand Prix from here. Might be a stretch then for the Haas and the Aston Martin. We'll wait and see then. Vessia is 6 seconds behind. Then R2 Beat then is P5, and has been in a bit of a scrap then with Jinner. Then it looks like as well. Then goodness me, all sorts of things going on there as well. Then as we head into lap 40 of 57 now. And now onto the main straight once again. Then Ginger has got himself past Equaz then as we go through up into P6. Now Ginger Rage picked up another penalty, unfortunately, for Ginger Rage. Then R2B has got some DRS then on Vessia into turn 1, but they stay status quo, I should say, then in terms of position, that is, as Ginger has got himself one place then, passing Equaz, but everyone else has stayed the same. And here we go then between Ginger then and R2B as well once again then, as it seems like Ginger is very keen to get himself past the Alpine here as we cruise into turn 4, I should say. Then we'll ride on board with Equaz actually, because this is going to be the best view then as we go into turn 5 and now into the hairpin of turn 6 as well. Then getting that car slowed down and not too skittish on the exit then is the most important part. But now into sector 2 we go then, and flying through this long right hander, then making sure you get the exit right as well, because you can invalidate or get a warning on the exit there as well. Then heading through into the dying embers then of the second hairpin, then into the dying embers of sector 2 now as well, into sector 3 momentarily. And Equaz then is just, I think, wisely holding back then, and maybe holding on then to the DRS then, but not fighting too hard then, not worrying too much as well at this stage of the race then. He doesn't need to worry at all at this stage of the race then. He's going to be crowned the champion as it stands. As we go through then, oh dear, we've gone wrong way. As we go through then onto lap 41 very shortly. Right then, here we are then, as we go round that final corner then. We've got once again another battle coming up this way as well. We've got Jinner then and R2 Beat then as we go through then onto the main straight once again then. R2 Beat, there's, oh my goodness me then, and we go through into turn 1 then, and R2 Beat I think is just backed out of that because he doesn't want to get involved. And fair play then, Gordo's been passed by Young Lights, has he? Yes, he has then. So Young Lights up into P2 now, around the outside goes Gordo, trying to hold it there, but unfortunately not quite then. Ginger Rage has pitted then for off the hard compound tyres, 26 laps of him. Then Vessia has been passed by Ginger as well. Then Ginger up into P4 and Vessia dropping down to P5. Then we've got Young Lights passing, then Gordo up into P2. Then a net race lead for Young Lights as it stands. Then of course if there's no more pit stops for the Kick Sauber left in this race, I should say. but we might expect Legend, we might expect Gordo to make a pit stop in this race. Then we'll have to wait and see. Then Jinner might have to make a pit stop as well then, because he is on 9-lap old medium compound tyres. We're going to have to do another 17 laps then in this Grand Prix. I'm not sure they will be too good towards the end of that stint, I should say. Vessia then looking to put the pressure on. Then R2 P6, then Equaz in P7 as it stands. Justify picks up another penalty, then penalties rolling in, especially around this circuit, of course, as we predicted then at the beginning of this race. And it is a penalty-inducing circuit, let's just put it that way. And unfortunately, 5 drivers are the only remaining candidates then without any penalties as it stands. Gordo is in the pit, so Gordo is calling it a day then. He's quite early on actually as well then for Gordo. 26 laps then on his hard compound tyres. Tori's picked up a penalty as well then. Gordo tumbling down the order now, of course, into the box then, going a bit slower down the main straight than his compatriots, or his rivals I should say, as Legend and is it Legend? No, it's not Legend. It's maybe it is Legend then. I think Legend has been passed by Young Lights. Young Lights takes the lead of the Grand Prix here. Fantastic stuff indeed then as well. Out of the pits comes Gordo. Oh no, he's not coming out of the pits just yet. Then he's going to be behind Kamara Racer. Then medium compound tyres going on. Then Tori has quit in the pit lane as well. Then he is done and dusted. And unfortunately, he completed 42 laps then and decided to give up there, which is well, fair enough, but there we go. Right, then out in the lead, then Young Lights takes the lead then away from Legend. Then Legend is on much older, hard compound tyres as Tori has left the session. Then, unfortunately for Tori, then he is not having a good time out there. And I need to blow my nose. Bear me 1 second. That's the problem with commentating for so long on your own. You have to, yeah, your nose starts running. It goes on for that long. Nonetheless, we crack on then. Lap 42 then turns to lap 43. Then Jinner picks up a penalty as well. Then there's all sorts of penalties going on out there, I think. We'll have a look at the penalty situation then in just a jiffy. Then Legend then trying to keep up with Young Lights then onto lap 43, sorry. My ears are popped as well. Then goodness me, everything's going wrong out here. But there we are. Then Jinner then trying to hold off Vessia. Vessia's got DRS. Then there's Williams then going very wide in the background there. Equaz, that is P6 now for him. Gordo then has pitted for a fresh set of medium compound tyres, and will have to try and get himself back through the pack quite quickly as well here, because he's got Kamara Racer, he's got Justify, he's got Coop, he's got Kiki, Chappers, Equaz, RTB, Vessia, Jinner, Legend, and Young Lights to pass then to get himself back onto the top spot then for Gordo. Of course, Gordo needs to win this race then and get the fastest lap of the race then to keep hold of the championship fight. Then Reflection and Ginger Age in a bit of a fight as well then, as up into P13 goes the Ginger Age. And that could be quite good indeed, actually, for Ginger Age. Then potentially he could be in contention then for some points here tonight. If it all goes his way, then of course there's still pit stops to come then for those ahead of him as well, potentially. We'll have to wait and see then if that happens and when that happens or what that happens. That doesn't make sense, but there you go. As we go through lap 43 now, and the two race leaders then are storming through 6.7 seconds away from Jinner then in P3. Jinner has quite a few penalties then that will be added on to his race time, I'm sure, but there's quite a few penalties out there for lots of drivers as well then, so it's not all just doom and gloom for Jinner then. There's quite a few that have that looming penalty then that's going to be coming over their heads and at the classification screen, but we will sort out that at the final lap then. Right then, here comes Legend then. He can't get himself past. Then in the background we've got Vessia and Jinner then, no changes there. Then Equaz has got himself past R2 then for P5. Then, of course, as it stands, Gordo is not scoring points. Then Gordo needs to win this race then, so Gordo needs to get himself through the pack quickly. And here he comes then. He's up into P11, passing Kamara Racer now as well. Then now can he pass Justify then into turn 1 as well? Then can he make a double move? Yes, he can. And he's up into the points paying positions now as Gordo, then passing the Ferrari then into turn 1 and passing 2 down the main straight as well. Then good stuff indeed from Gordo. Needs to get a move on now on those medium compound tyres, and he definitely was putting a shift in then down that straight. He's got himself up into the top 10 now, into the points paying positions. Then Ginger Age has got the fastest lap of the Grand Prix then, 24.168 then for the McLaren driver. Then that's fantastic. Can he hold on to that? Is the question then. 20 seconds then to the top 12 and or to the 12 ahead of him. Then yellow flags. It's for an Alpine. It's an Alpine. Where's an Alpine? Where is the Alpine? It's R2 off the circuit here, and R2 had an issue somewhere. I'm not quite sure what's happened then, but R2 has lost out then to Chabas and to Kiki here, and R2 has gone off the circuit. Then there's gravel all over the tyres and gravel on the track as well. Then at the beginning of sector 2, I think it is, or exit of sector of turn 6, I think it is as well. No, turn 7. Then so good to speak. I can't get me turns right, but unfortunately for R2B, he's had a problem then off the circuit. Then Kamara Races past Justify for P11 here. Oh, and breathe then. Gordo then is looking to get himself into a fight then. Oh, as Gordo's got another penalty then. That has gone very wide then through the penultimate corner then, and that could cost him dearly then as well, as he's not got DRS then through there. And oh dear, that car drifting as well for Gordo, unless that's just a glitch then. But it seems like that back end was looking to step out at the final corner of the Grand Prix, of the final corner of the lap, I should say. Lap 45 now is underway then. We've only got 12 laps to go, and then at the end of this one then we have stormed through this Qatar Grand Prix with that absolutely brilliant driving as well then, to be fair, and fantastic stuff indeed then from all the drivers as well. Then they've put on a fantastic show here tonight then, here in Losail then, as of course this is only the third time I think that we've raced in Qatar then in ALR. And I believe it's actually the first time we've raced 100% around here in Qatar as well. Then, but I might be wrong. It might be the second time. But yes, we've done F2 around here, of course, haven't we? So that was in it was the season before last was the F2 season. So it was 2 seasons ago now was the F2 around here, and I think was the first season that Qatar was on the game, wasn't it? So that must have been the first season we did Qatar then in the event league. Then we didn't have Qatar, I don't think, last season, or maybe we did, I'm not quite sure. I can't remember that far back, but we definitely have Qatar this season because I'm watching it live, and I will probably forget about it as well then. But so far I can't forget about it because it's been absolutely epic stuff indeed. And now we've got Gordo, we've got Coop, and we've got R2B then in a bit of a train forming here then for P8. Then into the pits comes Chappers, then he's done 21 laps then on the hard compound tyres. A bit of a small stint already, a bit of a quick stint then for the hard compound tyres then in terms of the hard compound tyre stints that we've seen. Ginger Age into the pit, not into pit, sorry, he's got a penalty then for his troubles as well then, goodness me. Naughty Ginger Age then. Gordo's past R2B then into turn 1, then Gordo up into P7 now, 2 seconds to Kiki is his next target. Chapper's opting for the medium compound tyres and coming out of the pit lane now will be ahead of Ginger Age just about, I would imagine, as Ginger Age crosses the line to start off lap 46 for him as well then. Where is Chappers? There he is then, coming out of the pit lane ahead of us now into turn 1. You can't see him because he's too far ahead. There it is. Heading through turn 2 now as well. Then good stuff indeed. Chappers now fresh medium compound tyres. 16-second gap to Kamara Racing then, but that is pretty much the gap then to the top 10 as well. So Chappers could easily get himself back in the top 10 then in the next 11 laps or so. It is not all over and done with just yet then. So those who are now stopping then might be able to sneak their way back into the points paying positions as well then. Coop then is under pressure with, putting the pressure on R2B then. And Gordo then is cruised off into the distance. So he's 1.7 seconds behind Kiki, then needs to get himself into contention quickly to get himself past that racing ball then, but of course he doesn't want to pick up too many penalties on the way through. Then he's flying through the circuit as it stands. Then lap 47 of 57 has commenced. Then Legend then is staying out. Then Legend has done 27 laps then on these hard compound tyres, I think, looking to try and settle for a P2 position here, and stay with the lights then with the DRS then down the main straight. Then Legend is holding on then at this point of the Grand Prix on much older tyres then, or 8 lap older tyres compared to the race leader of lights. Then Jinner then has done 15 laps on his medium compound tyres. They might start to fade at the end of this race. So we've got problems for a Red Bull then. It's not Styles, it's Vintage who's had an issue then. Vintage off the circuit there as well. Then goodness me, Vintage is not having a good time then. What's he doing? He's gone slow then on the exit of the hairpin then, which is definitely not where you want to slow down then for Vintage. And trying to get himself out of the way then of the cars coming through then, but he has done a good job of doing that and making sure he doesn't impede or get in the way then of any drivers then who are any other drivers I should say then that are coming through then on the lead lap as it stands. Vintage then is not having a good time out there, but hopefully he can get himself onto a set of soft compound tyres in the next few laps or so then, and go for a Ginger Age's fastest lap then, which I think can definitely be beaten because it's Ginger Age at the end of the day then. So there's it's all's fair in love and war, isn't it then? All's fair in fastest laps as well. But there we go then. Legend then holding on then. Could Legend get himself past then into the race lead? Then of course Young Lights has no penalties then, so that would position would reevaluate itself, let's just say then, at the end of the lap 57 as we go on to lap 48 now as well then. So far so good then. Legend couldn't get himself past, then Young Light stays in the lead. Then Vessier has dropped off the back of Jinner. Then Jinner has quite a few penalties as I remember. We'll have a look at the penalty situation in just a jiffy. Then where is Gordo now? Gordo is not caught up then to Kiki. Then Kiki's doing a good job then. Equaz picks up a penalty then, as Equaz was one of the drivers then, one of the 5 that didn't have any penalties unfortunately, but as it stands that penalty will not do any damage to the champion then, the champion elect I should say then. He is still in the fight then, he's still in the hunt then, he's still going to be the champion as it stands at this point of the race. penalty situation then for Jinner. 15 seconds then for him, then 24 seconds for Ginger Rage, then 21 seconds for Reflection. Goodness me. 12 seconds for Justify, then 9 for Kamara Racer, then 9 for somebody else as well. Then nope, there's no 9s for anybody else actually. 6 seconds in, there seems to be stacking up. Then they've got 3 seconds now for Equaz and 3 for R2Beat as well. 3 for Chappers then as it stands then, and Mushroom, Vessia and Young Lights are the only 3 drivers remaining then with no penalties as it stands as well then. So that is looking pretty good then for those 3 as we go through then into lap 48, then soon to be lap 49. And there we are then. So to be fair, for Big Al, he said Mushroom to finish in the top 5 then. To be honest, I think Mushroom could get in the top 5 with all the penalties ahead of him, so it's not all done and dusted just yet, and Mushroom might jump up the order and get himself in the points at this stage, but it is looking a bit penalty fill, let's just say, in the classification as it stands in on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side of the tower then. So we'll have to wait and see then as they cross the line then what the position changes will be like then as it filters through. Potentially there might be some penalties to be looked at as well then. R2B passing Coop then into P8, then is down the inside at turn 1. Coop then is on older, well not older, sorry, actually he's on very much younger than medium compound tyres though, but the mediums do start to drop off around this point of the race, as we've seen in the earlier stints as well then. But the cars do start to get lighter at this point of the race as well then, so that is where the difference in terms of the fuel loads, the actual weight of the car itself throughout the 100% race, the car gets so much lighter then as you burn through the fuel, and the drivers burn all their burn all the sweat off as well then as we go through onto lap 49 then of 57, then shortly onto lap 50. Then we've done 50 laps then soon of this Grand Prix. Then it's been absolutely fantastic for the first 50 laps, and hopefully the last 7 laps will be fantastic as well. But I have no doubt in it. These drivers have done a fantastic job here tonight then. It has been absolutely brilliant then. Legend then is holding on to the back then of Young Lights then for that P2 position then, and he is looking in good condition then for that P2 position as well then, as long as he doesn't get any punctures or anything like that. But he's done 30 laps now on the hard compound tyre, sorry, and has got himself into P2 then, and is cruising along then behind Young Lights then for the time being. Then Vessia then could inherit the 3rd place on the podium unless Legend has got 6 seconds. He has got 6 seconds actually, so Vessia could even go for P2 then in this race then if he can get himself into that range then of the Haas car. Then he's got 6 seconds as Legend then, but he's 7 seconds back then is Vessia. R2B has been passed then by Coop then, and here comes Kamara then, not quite then for Kamara, and Justify is waiting in the wings as well then. Let's have a look and see what the penalty situation is for Justify. Unfortunately he's got 12 seconds of penalties then, goodness me, but potentially Justify then could get himself into the points paying positions then, and we might see Justify getting his first points of the season on his on the penultimate race of the season. I don't want to jinx it then, because I did jinx it last week then. It was 48 thousandths of a second for Justify. He was P11 in the end then, which is a big shame indeed then. Penalty wise, unfortunately he would lose out to these 3 drivers ahead of him then as it stands then, but potentially we will wait and see then if there's any more chopping and changing, any more last minute pit stops, then we might see Justify promoted into the points paying positions as well. We'll have to wait and see. But so far so good then, as we've got Vintage unfortunately getting lapped then by this quartet, I should say, then going through then into Sector 3 very shortly. And yeah, so far so good then. Fair play to Vintage and for Soldier on in this race as well then. Out in front then Young Lights and Legend then holding station then as we go on to lap 51 of 57 then. 6 laps remaining at the end of this one. Here comes Vessia then down the straight then. Unfortunately he's not gaining then on the top 3 as it stands then. Although actually he is bringing the gap down to Jinner maybe slightly. I think maybe Jinner's actually bringing the gap down to the top 2 as we go through then onto lap 51 then. So goodness me, then it could get all spicy here indeed, as R2Beat and Coop then looking to get it spicy then down towards turn 1 then. R2Beat's got the inside, then he takes the place then away from the Williams of Coop, and Coop is trying to defend from Kamara Racer as well here then. As we go through into turn 2 then, it's not status quo then. We've got roles reversed then for R2Beat and Coop then, but status quo then in P10 and P11 as it stands. Chappers then is only 10 seconds away then in the back of this, coming up to the back of this fight as well, potentially very quickly on those fresh medium compound tyres. So we'll have to wait and see then if Chappers can do it as well then. Ginger Rage then, I think, who's got the fastest lap now? It's still Ginger Rage as it stands then, 24.168 then. There is nobody too close to that, I don't think, at this stage as well then. So that is pretty good stuff indeed from Ginger Rage then. We won't say too much about that then, because we don't want to jinx it. R2Beat's picking up another penalty, unfortunately for R2Beat, then going through into Sector 2. And that could be even more costly then. Potentially, that could be... No, it's not. It's only 6 seconds for R2B. Then I was going to say, potentially, that could promote Justify then, but not quite then. Justify's going to have to do it on track then and get himself a gap then of 3 seconds over most of these drivers ahead of him as well then, as it stands then. Unless there's more pit stops to come then in the latter stages then. We'll have to wait and see. But R2B has fought gallantly as well then. Gordo has seemed to have stalled out a bit then on his charge then to try and get himself past Kiki. Then unfortunately for Gordo, then P7 will not be enough as it stands then in the championship fight. Then we'll have to go on to Equaz then, because he is looking like he's in a prime position then with 5 laps to go then at the end of this lap to take the championship here then for the 100% League Season 3 in ALR. Then it's been fantastic, this stuff indeed then, this season indeed then, for both Equaz and for Gordo and for R2B of course in P3. They've all put on some fantastic racing then in the first 20 rounds then in this 21st round here tonight in Qatar as well then. So fair play indeed to all 3 of them, and fair play to all the drivers as well then who have put on a show then in the 21 rounds we've had so far in this season as well. Now then, here comes Legend, and can he get himself maybe a sniff of the race lead then, and potentially try and hold off Lights, potentially hope that Lights maybe gets a penalty as well then. We'll wait and see then, as Vessia unfortunately has dropped off a bit from the top 3 then. Kamara Racer picked up another penalty as well then. Goodness me, that could be bad news for Kamara Racer then. He's on 12 seconds with Justify now. If Justify gets himself through, although Kamara Racer's got much fresher tyres than the Ferrari behind him, but if Justify sneaks his way through, then potentially Justify could get himself into P10 and hold on to that P10 position as well then. We'll wait and see, as my foot is itching, so I've got to try and power through it. That 53 then of 57, then we are storming through this race. Then we have stormed through this race, I should say, because we're nearly there into the twilight embers here in the under the night sky of Qatar. Then we've done a brilliant job. Then these drivers have done a brilliant job. Then Justify's down the inside, and Justify takes P10, and that could be crucial because Justify could be on for his first points of the season here tonight as well. Then it could be a championship crowning race then for Equaz. It could be a first points of the season race for Justify. Then that's fantastic stuff indeed. Then hopefully he can hold on. We will wait and see. But I think I'm going to be more. I don't want to be more excited for Justify's points then than Equaz, but I think I might be. You know, oh dear, he's made a contact with the back of the Williams. There's more contact. Then, my God, oh Justify, then don't go for it now. Then this is not where you need to get any more penalties then, because we don't want to have that retrospectively looked at after the Grand Prix. Then Coop then is lost out to the DRS then of R2B, I should say then, which is bad news then for R2 or for Coop, I should say then. Goodness me, but Justify might be under a bit of a pressure then from Coop then in the reporting after that one, because unfortunately Justify then did seem to tap the back of the Williams and lose that DRS then for Coop, and that is going to be crucial then. If Coop loses out to the DRS, then that will be well, bad news indeed for Justify. Let's just put it that way then, because unfortunately I don't think he was at best in that incident there as well. Then Kiki's got himself past Equaz, then up into P5, then he's got himself past the championship leader, potentially the championship winner then as well, as we head on to lap 54, I should say then. Justify's going for the move then on Coop then. Unfortunately for Justify, then he might be under a bit of a steward investigation, let's just say then, for the manoeuvre then on Coop then earlier on in the stint then in the lap then, I should say, as we head on to lap 54. Then there is only 4 laps remaining then at the end of, at the beginning of this lap. Then we're only 4 laps remaining, 3 laps remaining at the end of this lap, I should say. And in front then the gap is 6 tenths of a second then, but the Jinner is bringing that gap down now. It's now 2.4 seconds then between the top 2 and Jinner, 6 seconds back then to Vessia, and Vessia seems to be slowing down then in this stint then compared to the top 3 at this moment in time. Then Equaz then has got himself out. He's been passed by Kiki then, but doesn't need to worry too much, I don't think, about the Racing Bull passing him. Doesn't even need to worry about his title rival of Gordo passing him either, because Gordo then can go up to P6 then, Equaz down to P7, and it doesn't change anything then, as Vintage unfortunately picks up another penalty then for his troubles. Justify then is now on the back of R2 Beat here, and it could be looking for another position as well here very soon for Justify. I think he's gone a bit wide then into sector 3. That could be he doesn't want to get too many warnings then, does he? Because he's already got quite a few penalties out there. And then he needs to make sure he minimises the penalties at the same time as keeping up the pace. Then heading into lap 55 then of 56 and as 57, I should say, that as Gordo has got himself past Equaz and the 2 championship protagonists. Then as Gordo's back end stepping out then into turn 2, but the 2 championship immediate protagonist, then switching places, then Gordo up into P6, then Equaz P7 then, but it doesn't make any difference in terms of the final standings as it stands, because the gap will be over 26 points then for Equaz to Gordo. And Equaz will be crowned the champion here tonight then, as it stands as well. Then brilliant stuff indeed then, as we go through then into Sector 2. Oh, goodness me. As it looked like Justify was going to go for a move then, but he needs to be very careful at this point. But Coop then might have something to say about Justify's points-paying positions then, as it stands as well then. My goodness me. Of course, penalties will be playing a factor in this one as well then, as we have a look at the penalty situation. And at the moment, then 12 seconds for Justify and Kamara Race then will demote them past Coop anyway then, to be fair. So Justify will then hold on to the final points paying position. But that is as it stands then, as it looks like Young Light is trying to stretch his legs out there. Legend has still got some DRS, I think, then, but he's harvesting battery, then heading down the main straight then on lap 56, the penultimate lap of the race, then in the penultimate race of the season here in Qatar, then here in the 100% league as well. Then looking forward to seeing the checkered flag for this one, because I think we're going to be crowning a champion here tonight. Then that could be Equaz. This man here, then he is currently P7. Then he just needs 2 points. Then he needs Gordo. Well, Gordo needs to win this race and get fastest lap. Then Equaz needs to not score. And as it stands, then Equaz is going to be crowned the champion then of ALR 100% realistic performance season 3. That's a mouthful for you, but there we go. Oh dear, R2Beat's off the circuit. R2Beat's out of the circuit, and Justify's off the circuit as well. Then Justify's had an issue then into the first turn then, and he's off the. Oh dear, it's all gone wrong then for Justify, and he's lost out massively then as well. Then I didn't see what was going on there, but my goodness me, then he has lost out to Chappers and Ginger Age as well. Then 10-second battle with them, but obviously that can be removed as well. Into the pits comes Reflection. Then he's going to go for the fastest lap. Then I think so. We've same for Styles as well. Then Ginger Age has carried on then, but oh dear, I'm not quite sure. Chappers is off. Chappers has let Ginger Age go through as well then. My goodness me. Well, that's very generous. But Justify then, unfortunately, we didn't see what happened then for the Ferrari then, but it looked like he was a bit ambitious then going for a move then on R2Beat. Then R2Beat is down to P10 and has also had some sort of issues there as well then, but hopefully we'll be able to hold on to his points paying position at least then. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened there. Then there was last lap shenanigans, let's just put it that way. Chappers have got a 3-second penalty then, and we go through into turn 1. Then Styles is out in P16. And I'm not quite sure which Ferrari that is, actually. I think that's Ewok's slapped car, so he doesn't have to worry about that too much. But there we go, then Vintage has also got damage as well. Then it looks like that right end plate's missing then for the Red Bull car. Final lap of the Grand Prix then, we're underway then into Sector 2. Then Young Lights then is trying to stretch his legs here, and Gino's got a 3-second penalty then for his troubles as well. Then Justify picked up another penalty as well. Then R2Beat has been passed by Ginger Age. R2Beat has crashed in the pit then. Okay. Not quite sure what's happened then to R2Beat. Then he seems to have had an issue somewhere. But R2Beat then out of the race then on the final lap then, which, well, yeah, well, his penultimate lap, I suppose you could say. But there you go. Then unfortunately, that's the third retirement then of the Grand Prix. And right then, well, what more can you do then? To be fair. Well, it's promoted Ginger Age up into the points paying positions as it stands then, but I'm not quite sure he will get that position then, because he's got quite a lot of penalties then as well there. So there we are. Young Lights then is going to be coming round the final corner then to win the Qatar Grand Prix then for the Kick Sauber team. Then a fantastic result then for Young Lights then, who claims the victory here in Qatar then. Brilliant stuff indeed then from the Green Machine then. He's got himself a P1 position, a race win here in Losail as well then. Fantastic stuff indeed. Legend P2, Jinna P3. Well, here we go then. Here comes Equaz then. Equaz comes across the line then to finish the Qatar Grand Prix and claim the title here for the 100% Season 3 realistic performance season as well then. Brilliant stuff indeed from Equaz. He has been fantastic indeed all season as well then, and he has got himself the crown here tonight then. Fantastic from the Williams driver then. There he is, cruising through the first sector then. He has got himself the title then wrapped up here in Qatar then. What a result then from Equaz then. He's done it for the Williams team as well then. Brilliant stuff indeed, and a golden trophy then on the way for Equaz as well then. Fantastic. And what a season it's been then. What a race it's been as well for Equaz then. Ups and downs in the strategy then as well then here in Qatar in round 21 then, but all through the season, fantastic racing then from Equaz. He has deserved the title then. He has been crowned the champion here in tonight's race here in Qatar. Fantastic stuff indeed. Then, as we get in there for we go get the result. That is P4 in the end as well. Then, my goodness, I didn't even see. Then Vessia's got himself up into P2. Then Legend P3. Then Equaz P4. Then Champion then has been crowned. Then for the Williams driver. Then Kiki P5. Gordo P6. Then Reflections gets the fastest lap of the race. Then Gina P7. Coupe P8. Then Kamara Racer I think P9 in the end. Then I think Chappers did round off the points paying positions as well. Then we'll run through the classification. Then we will get the drivers in for their interviews as well. Then we'll get. Let me get the invites out quickly as well then whilst we're here. No, I can't. I don't know what I'm doing. Right. Well, let's have a look at the. Let's have a look at this first. Here is the classification. Then there's the podium drivers. Then podium sitters. Then for this Qatar Grand Prix, the penultimate round of the 100% season. Then Young Lights takes the win here tonight. Then a fantastic race result. Then for the Kick Sauber team. Then he claims the top spot here in Qatar. And then we've got the Aston Martin of Vessi. Then got himself up into the points paying positions. Then into the podium places in the end. Then with the penalty situation. Then for others around him. Then he got himself into P2. Then did the Aston Martin driver then, and Legend in the Haas then reserving tonight, then rounds off the podium places in P3. Brilliant result. Then there is the classification then for the Qatar Grand Prix. Then I will just get myself some screenshots because I need those for later on then, as we take Young Lights then P1 then. A great win indeed for Young Lights then. Vessia P2, Legend P3. Equaz has been crowned the champion here tonight then in the Williams. Then a fantastic season for Equaz. Then he has done it here in Qatar with one round to spare. Then Kiki P4, P5, Gordo P6, Jenna P7, Coupe P8, Kamara P9, then Chappers P10, then Sirius Mushroom P11, Justified P12, then Ginger Age P13. We've got who else? We've got Ginger Age Reflection in P something, and somebody else, and we've got Reflection with Fastest Lap as well. Oh goodness me! Right then, hopefully we can get ourselves some interviews now, shall we? And we'll start off with some quick interviews. I can't get them in the party is the question though. Is I need to get myself sorted and invite some people. Because nobody has done it for me. Bear me 1 second, and I will get Equaz in here. Of course, he didn't finish in the podium places, but he did get himself a championship tonight, so that's fair enough. Bear me whilst I try and sort this out whilst I am trying to commentate at the same time. So let me get myself sorted. There we go. Invitations are out. Fantastic.
Hello, Alex. Your stuff isn't working. Can't hear you.
We're just waiting for Equaz to join then, and we will get ourselves underway. Then Equaz has he joined us? Yes, he has. Then good stuff indeed. Then we'll start off with you. Then our champion then for season 3. Then how do you feel after clinching the title here tonight? Then in Qatar.
Hey, guys, thank you so much, everyone. I don't know what to say. That was honestly amazing. Such a great season. Yeah, just a huge shout out to Coop and everyone that follows in his streams. They know who they are. That's Pin. We've got Brian. They're in day out, and yeah, they've been a huge motivation for me. And yeah, it's great feeling.
And congratulations on the rate, well, on the championship, of course. But is there a highlight of your season that you really thought that the championship was going to be yours this season? Is there a race earlier on then, or a certain lap, and maybe even an overtake that you remember that was the turning point for your season, then to get yourself into contention for the title?
At one point, it was looking a bit a bit scary because Gordo was looking really strong in the Aston, and obviously with Beat, it's a shame that he weren't able to capitalise on that Alpine. But today he was really fast, but it's a shame that he weren't able to compete like that in the previous races. But yeah, Gordo definitely gave a really good fight. It's a shame as well that he didn't make what was it? Yeah, last week's race. So it would have been a lot closer. So that really gave me a good cushion actually, and it was really from there when not saying that I thought I was going to win it, but because I know with Gordo's pace and seeing that he got poled today, it was kind of like maybe he could actually win this and get fastest lap. So I was definitely getting a bit nervous still, um, but now I can kind of relax.
Yeah, congratulations once again. Then you've got one round to spare as well. Then so you can relax next week as well. Then and just have a cruise around Abu Dhabi then as a celebration as well. Then, but congratulations to Ekwaz then once again. Then the champion then for season 3 of the 100% Realistic Performance League, and credit to you as well. Then fantastic season as we said in the stream as well. Brilliant stuff indeed all season as well.
Thank you.
Congratulations. So we'll come back to Ekwaz then because we've got to sort out your trophies and whatnot as well, but we'll get that sorted as well before Christmas, hopefully. But well done
Yes,
indeed.
but
We'll go on to our race winner then, Young Lights here tonight. Young Lights then who stormed off into the distance, I think, then in the latter stage of the Grand Prix there. And oh, you need to turn your stream off, mate. And we got yourself another race win then for the Kick Sauber team, and really well done indeed. Then in that final stint as well, then it just sort of powered through and powered off into the distance there.
It was a good race for me. I'm over the moon. I can't believe I won this. I thought it was going to be much closer, but with the pit stop I made, I managed to push away from Equez and Vestia. But it was an amazing race. I'm so happy. This is my third win, and this is my most successful season in ALR so far. So I can't wait to see what the next race has. Congratulations to Equez for winning the championship, Vestia for the podium, and Legends as well.
Yeah, brilliant stuff indeed, and well done indeed to yourself then for a fantastic race. You've done a good job as well, like you said, this season in ALR. Then hopefully we'll see some more of that to come next week, of course, in Abu Dhabi. Maybe another race win for yourself as well, but of course in the next season as well, into 2025. Then as we start to wind down now, especially in 100% league, we've only got one race left, and there's still 2 races to go in the other divisions. But a credit to you then for that race. Then did you think in the first stint when you were battling then with the other Aston Martins and with the Mercedes and the Racing Bulls then as well, then that you had the race win in the bag in the first stint, or did you have to work hard for it in the second stint to get that wrapped up?
I had to work hard in the second stint to get it wrapped up. Honestly, I thought it was going to be close all the way to the end, and I'm surprised how I didn't even get a 3-second penalty, So it was just focus, pure focus, and I'm happy I could have brought the car across the line to get this win.
Fantastic stuff indeed, and congratulations once again then for the race win for Young Lights then here tonight then in Qatar. We've got Vessia then in P2. I think it was P2. P2
yeah.
in the end then.
Just
for the Aston Martin then, and you got yourself another podium then for the green machine then, 2 green machines on the top steps of the podium, I should say. But how do you feel after that race then? It would seem to be a bit of a difficult one in terms of keeping up the pace then and keeping the penalties minimised as well.
Yeah. Penalties, luckily didn't get any, but I'm hella frustrated with myself. I turned in too late in the pit stop, which cost me about 2 seconds, and then the clutch wouldn't release coming out the pit stop, so I lost so much time. Dropped behind Ekraz by like 2 seconds, and then because of the battling with R2B, although he was slower, DRS and that was just keeping him up, and I couldn't focus on my own race and catch Ekraz like I wanted to, and then focus on Young Light, so I had to kind of battle hard for that.
Fair enough. Well,
Even though
it was a good term. Well, like I said, you had quite a few
yeah.
battles in that race, especially with Young Lights in the first stint as well, for the race lead in most part, then with Equaz then just behind you as well. And in the end, did you think after all that battling that you, and of course the clutch issue and the pit stop was a bit of a factor in the stops then, but did you think after the mammoth first stint that you guys had done that you would be in contention then for potentially the race win even, or just a podium on the cards?
I thought podium on the cards, but the pace that I had on the hards wasn't bad. It was just DRS trains, and it's just kind of slowed me down. So yeah, I couldn't benefit from a DRS train. I was kind of getting held back from it. So yeah, it's a P2. I can't complain.
Wait,
It
I
was
wouldn't
looking
complain,
like
to be fair.
P3.
So
It was looking like P3, but I did a mammoth last lap, so that luckily was a P2.
nice one indeed. Then well done for what all three podium sitters. Then well done for Young Lights and the race winner tonight. Then Vessia
Thank you.
P2 and Legend, who unfortunately didn't join us, then P3, and to our champion then of Equaz, then who will get his royal mentions then in the chats and whatnot as well. Then in the next few minutes or so, hopefully once I get myself sorted. But well done indeed then to all the guys who managed to finish this Qatar Grand Prix without getting disqualified with the penalties. And we'll move on to Abu Dhabi then in the next rounds of the final round of the season here before the break then for 100%, and we'll come back very soon. Thanks very much then. Cheers, bye.
Tonight, the reigning champion fights for second crown.
Claims the victory there. Wins the Grand Prix. Equaz wins in Brazil. A fantastic race from the Williams and a fantastic battling from Luke.